Let love explode and bring the dead to life. A love so bold to bring a revolution somehow. Now I'm lost in your freedom, and this world I'll overcome. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. Let hope arise and make the darkness hide. My faith is dead, I need a resurrection somehow. Now I'm lost in your freedom, and this world I'll overcome. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. He's roaring. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
Good morning and welcome to the King's Report for Thursday, June 29th, 2017. We're in the 8th year of Cheonggi. We're in that second fifth month, the 13th month of the year that we're having in order to bring the holy calendar, the heavenly calendar, more in line with the movement of the sun. So this is the second fifth month, and this is the 6th day of that second fifth month by the heavenly calendar. I'm Tim Elder, sitting in for the second king of Cheongguk, Hyungjin Moon. And today we have a special treat. We'll be hearing from Mrs. Kang a little bit later. Let's see the weather. Begin with the weather. 57 degrees here in Cheongguk. And also, let's see, today we're going up to 85 degrees. And then 66 tonight, so a little bit warmer tonight. And no rain really in the forecast, mainly clear and periods of cloud and sun. And in the Colorado Rockies, where the king and his party are, also seems that it's a little bit cooler than here. but in the low 70s, low to mid 70s, but also no rain in the forecast. Of course, it's the mountain area, so weather can change very quickly. You never know. But at least in the forecast, there is no rain. And it looks like a pretty good weather for their trekking. I believe this is their second day on that marathon trek of 35 miles. In fact, let's take a look at, maybe many of you saw this already. Let's take a look at this photograph that he published on his Facebook yesterday. This is apparently they're in the bus that is taking them to the starting point of the trek. There you can see, you can recognize a number of people there. All right. All right, let's go to our Rima for today. I'm in Jeremiah, the book of Jeremiah, chapter 32, verse 26. Then the word of the Lord came to Jeremiah, saying, Behold, I am the Lord, the God of all flesh. Is there anything too hard for me? And at first, I just stopped reading there, thinking, wow, yeah, but God is telling us again that He is capable of anything. Of course, He needs the conditions to be set by us. He needs us to fulfill our portions of responsibility. But when we do so, He is able to do anything. But then I continued reading, and I want to do this too. This is, Therefore thus says the Lord, Behold, I will give this city into the hand of the Chaldeans, into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and he shall take it. And the Chaldeans who fight against this city shall come and set fire to this city and burn it, with the houses on whose roofs they have offered incense to Baal and poured out drink offerings to other gods to provoke me to anger. Because the children of Israel and the children of Judah have done only evil before me from the earth, from their youth. For the children of Israel have provoked me only to anger with the work of their hands, says the Lord. For this city has been to me a provocation of my anger and my fury from the day that they built it, even to this day. So I will remove it before my face, because of all the evil of the children of Israel and the children of Judah, which they have done to provoke me to anger. They, their kings, their princes, their priests, their prophets, the men of Judah, and the inhabitants of Jerusalem. And they have turned to me the back and not the face. Though I taught them, rising up early and teaching them, yet they have not listened to receive instruction. Now that verse, especially this is verse 33 that I just read, just strikes me as something that Father would really be saying right now. And they have turned to me the back and not the face, though I taught them, rising up early and teaching them, yet they have not listened to receive instruction. But they set their abominations in the house which is called by my name to defile it. You see, they still, in the Family Federation, they're still using Father's name and using His image, but they are setting their abominations in the house which is called by my name to defile it. So they're using Father's name and Father's image to defile Father's providence and Father's legacy. And they built the high places of Baal, which are the valley of the son of Hinnom, to cause their sons and daughters to pass through the fire to Moloch, which I did not command them, nor did it come into my mind that they should do this abomination to cause Judah to sin. So God is not happy. God is not happy. And so He says that He will deliver the Jerusalem, and He will deliver the people of Israel into the hands of the Chaldeans, into the hands of the king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar. And He does this in order to bring His people back to Him, because His people have sinned against Him. He tried to teach them, but they would not listen. They would not receive instruction. And They, in fact, use God's name to defile God's house. We must all repent. We must all repent. But right now we are passing through this time of judgment, and that is, I think, what God is telling us here. Now, in the Cheonseonggyeong, something similar. I'm in book 6, Our Life in the Spiritual Realm, and let's see which chapter this is. This is chapter 2. What kind of place is the spirit world? Did I just lose it? No, I did not. Okay, this is what I came across this morning. Your parents and ancestors are the archangels, aren't they? But they are no longer the angels who bring ruin to the heavenly side. They take on the mission of the angels who bring ruin to the fallen world. This is the archangel on the heavenly side, who, according to the laws of restoration through indemnity, stands in the opposite position to the past. Consequently, they will cooperate with their descendants and Adam-like figures. Such phenomenon will occur when the spirits in the spirit world will cooperate and can be resurrected along with people on earth. Aju. Thank you, Father. We are reminded once again that we're passing through this period of judgment, and we will see that in the news that we'll be covering a little later on. And we need to understand that this judgment comes out of God's love, because this is the process that, given the circumstances, is necessary in order to bring about Cheonryuk. It would not have been necessary if the Han Mother had submitted herself to God's lineage and to the second king of Cheonryuk, but she has made this choice, and she had made it on behalf of all humanity. And so humanity is going through this period of judgment. All right, shall we take a short break before we go to Mrs. Kang? Let's do that. And then we'll come back, and Mrs. Kang has a message for us this morning.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
Car Arms, Magnum Research, and Auto Ordnance. The Car Firearms Group. With a diverse product line that blends American craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology. It's no secret why gun enthusiasts choose Car Firearms Group. From the Desert Eagle and Baby Desert Eagle made famous by Hollywood. The history of the 1911 and the Tommy gun. To the best in compact concealed carry. Car Firearms Group is not only the first name in personal defense, it's a name that has earned the respect of gun enthusiasts around the world. Concealment, innovative technology, value, accuracy, and history. Car Firearms Group. Made in the USA. Visit car.com today.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
Welcome back to the King's Report for Thursday, June 29th, 2017, 8th year of Cheongi, the second, 5th month, and 6th day by the heavenly calendar. We're going now to Mrs. Kang, and she's asked me to read from the Gospel of John, just as chapter 14, verses 8 and 9. Philip saith unto him, Lord, show us the Father, and it sufficeth us. Jesus saith unto him, Have I been so long time with you, and yet hast thou not known me, Philip? He that hath seen me hath seen the Father. And how sayest thou then, show us the Father? 예, 강 기자님 말씀하십시오. 강 기자님, 예, 말씀하십시오. 예, 예.
안녕하십니까.
Good morning, everyone.
오늘 여러분들에게 말씀드릴 내용은 참 아버님을 이 땅 위에 보내어 주시며 정말로 하나님이 하시고자 원하셨던 모든 뜻을 아버님을 통해 성사하시고 완성시키려고 하셨던 것이 참 하나님의 뜻이었고 또 예수님께서 자신의 사명을 아버님께 인계하시고 뿐만 아니라 더 나아가서 연계에 있는 모든 이거 통역해야 되지?
네, 통역해야 됩니다. 예, 그러니까 문장이 끝나는 걸 제가 기다리고 있었는데 예, 지금까지 하신 걸 통역할까요?
네.
예.
새로 해야 되겠네.
새로 하시겠어요?
네.
예.
오늘 여러분들에게 말씀드릴 내용은 하나님께서 이 땅 위에 당신이 하시고자 원하셨던 뜻을 성사시키고 완성시키는 데는 진짜 아버님을 대신자로 세우셨습니다.
All right. Mrs. Kang began, but she forgot that I need to translate, and so she was going on, but now she went back to the beginning and began again so that I could translate for her. Her topic this morning is that God established our true Father as His representative on earth, so that He could accomplish His will.
아버님을 정말로 하나님께서 세우실 때는 여기에는 많은 뜻이 있었을 것이고 또 이것을 해내실 수 있는 그런 내용, 그런 심정을 지니고 계셨기 때문에 하나님은 부르셨습니다.
And God established a Father. When God did that, God had a plan and a will, that a reason for doing that, and it must have been that Father had a certain heart that God could use in order for that purpose.
아버님은 참으로 이 땅 위에 오실 때부터 또 오셔서 정말 하나님께서 이 일을 맡기시고도 안심하실 수 있는 그런 내용과 자격을 가지고 계셨기 때문에 하나님은 택하여 세우셨다고 생각되어집니다.
The Father had the content and the qualification that God could put him in charge of the providence and be confident that Father would be able to accomplish this.
중요한 사명을 가지고 계셨기에 아버님은 어릴 때부터 생각하는 것이나 행동하는 것이나 모든 것이 지상의 사람들과는 다른 생활을 해 오셨습니다.
And Father was different from other people, even from his early age. He thought differently and he did things differently.
그러하기 때문에 아버님 이 땅 위에 오셨을 때 증거하는 이가 많이 있었습니다.
And so there were many people who would testify to Father even from his early age.
어떻게 증거했느냐 하면은 정말로 이 땅 위에 큰 뜻을 가지고 온 세계 인류를 살리시는 구원하시는 이런 사명을 가지고 오셨다는 것을 많은 분들이 증거했습니다.
Many people testified to the fact that Father had received the mission to bring salvation to the world and to create a new world on this earth.
한국 사람뿐만이 아니라 서양에 사는 사람들 가운데도 많은 분들이 증거했다고 아버님은 말씀하셨습니다.
And Father said that these people who were testifying for him were not just Koreans, but also people in other countries as well.
그러기에 아버님은 초조한 심정을 가지시고 참 하나님께서 명령하시고 또 세우신 분이었기 때문에 누구보다도 아버님은 그걸 잘 아십니다. 그러기에 정말로 일거수일투족 생활하시면서도 정말로 참 남들이 알 수 없는 그런 조심스러운 생활을 해오셨습니다.
And Father, because he was aware of this, he had a great sense of urgency, and he lived his life with a great care to make sure that every step he took, that every movement of his hand, every movement of his feet would be in accordance with God's will and would be towards the accomplishment of God's will.
세상 사람들은 또 믿는 사람들도 다 알지 못하지만 아버님은 한 뜻을 가슴에 품고 정말로 정성을 다하고 심정을 다해서 이 뜻을 세우려고 애타하셨던 것입니다.
We don't know how many people actually believed in him in the world, but Father himself was extremely serious, and he devoted his entire heart and his entire devotion for the accomplishment of God's will.
이리 쫓기시고 저리 쫓기시고 몰리시면서도 가슴 한가운데는 나는 세계를 책임지고 왔다는 그런 심정, 그런 사명 아래서 하나에서부터 열까지 정말로 하나님과 동행하는 생활을 하셨다고 볼 수 있습니다.
Even when Father was in a time of persecution and he was being chased from here to there, even when people were mocking him and chasing him out, still Father never lost sight of the fact that his mission was to bring salvation to the entire world.
언제나 아버님은 초조한 심정을 가지시고 정말로 당신 자신을 위해서 움직일 때는 그냥 별스러운 생활을 하시지 않았습니다마는 정말로 아버님은 여기에 처음에는 한국 3천만을 위해서 또 더 나아가서는 온 세계 인류의 생명을 걸어놓았다고 생각하실 때는 아버님은 정성을 들이지 않은 것이 하나도 없었습니다.
Father was not concerned only with the salvation of the people of Korea, but also with the entire world, and he devoted his entire energy and devotion for this purpose.
아버님은 말씀하셨습니다. 정성을 들이는 곳에는 하나님이 동행하시고 동서하시고 동력해 주시지만은 정성 없이 할 때는 이거는 아무 열매를 맺을 수 없다고 하셨습니다.
Father said it this way. He said that where there is a sincerity and dedication, then God will be with you, God will work with you, God will cooperate with you. But if there is no sincerity and dedication, then nothing can be accomplished.
그래서 저를 정말로 천돈에 보내실 때에 얼마나 아버님은 정말로 정성을 들였다는 것을 저는 많이 느꼈던 것입니다.
And Mrs. Kang could feel that when Father was sending her out on her pioneering and witnessing missions, he did so on the basis of a great 정성, great sincerity and dedication.
한 번 나가면은 개척 전도도 갔지만은 전 한국 땅을 순회하라고 해서 순회를 하면서도 아버님은 어떤 생각을 하셨느냐 하면은 정말로 아직도 나이도 젊고 어린 것이 나가서 무엇을 할 수 있을 것인가 이렇게 생각하시면서 기도 많이 하셨다고 저보고 몇 번이고 말씀하셨습니다.
Sometimes Father would send her to pioneer specific locations. Sometimes he would send her out, tell her to tour the entire country as an itinerary worker. But in every case, Father was praying for her while she was gone, and he was worried, concerned that she was a very young person then, and perhaps not capable of accomplishing great things.
한 번 나가면은 40일, 60일, 80일을 얻어먹으면서 빌어서 자면서 이렇게 지났다가 오면은 아버님이 하시는 말씀은 정말로 미쳐 계셨습니다. 어디에 미쳐 계셨느냐 하면은 이 땅 위의 인류를 내가 책임지고 정말로 구원을 해야 되는데 내적으로 외적으로 살리지 않으면 아니 되겠다는 불붙는 심정을 가지시고 제가 나갔다가 오면은 금방 거기서 보고 말씀 끝나면은 끝나자마자 아버님 하신 말씀은 뭐라고 하시는고 하면은 또 언제 나갈래? 또 나가야지. 이렇게 말씀하시는 것을 보고 저는 참 아버님은 매정하신 분이시지 하룻밤이라도 자고 내보내면 좋은데 어떻게 금방 들어온 사람에게 저렇게 이 얘기를 하나 했는데 그것도 나중에 알고 보니까 다 참 인류를 생각하시고 한국 교회를 생각하시고 세계를 생각하시면서 정말로 가슴 가운데서 우러나는 심정을 가지시고 말씀을 해주셨던 것입니다.
Each time Mrs. Kong would go out, she would go out for periods of 40 days, sometimes 60 days, sometimes 80 days. And during that time, she would take no money with her, very little money with her, and so she would have to eat whatever people would give her, and she would have to beg people to let her sleep in their homes or in other places. And when she would come back, then Father would receive her report, but then as soon as she finished her report, he would say to her, all right, so when do you want to go out again? You need to go out again. How soon can you go out again? And at the time, Mrs. Kong remembers thinking, how can he be this way? I've been out so long, but at least he should let me sleep here at least one night before sending me out again. But this was how urgent Father felt, that he needed to save the people both internally and externally. And he wanted to work as fast as possible, quickly as possible, in order to bring salvation to the people of Korea. That was his concern for Korea and his concern for the church in Korea.
그러면서 늘 격려해 주셨습니다. 어떤 말씀을 아버님은 해 주셨느냐 하면은 나는 사실 이 뜻을 알고부터는 1분 1초도 나는 못하겠다는, 할 수 없다는 이런 생각을 해본 적이 없고 자신이 있습니다. 제가 하겠습니다. 하나님 안심하십시오 하면서 하나님의 심정에 정말로 참으로 용기를 가지고 자라고 있구나 하실 수 있게끔 하나님을 감동시키는 그런 생활을 아버님은 해오셨던 것입니다.
Father would say that from the time that he came to know the will of God, he could not rest for even a minute or even a second. That he never would say to God, oh, I can't do this, or this is too difficult for me. Instead, he would always comfort God, saying, don't worry, God, I can do this. I'm confident that I can do this. I will do this. And he encouraged us to do the same.
옛날 아버님께서 기도하시고 말씀하실 때 보게 되면은 정말로 정성을 다하고 사력을 다해서 말씀을 하신다는 것을 느끼지 않을 수 없었습니다.
I remember how when Father would pray and then give his sermons, he would give his sermons. He would, with his entire strength, with all of his energy, it would be poured into those sermons.
겨울에도 정말로 추운 날씨인데도 불구하고 기도하시고 설교하시고 예배하시는 것을 예배 드리는 것을 보게 되면은 그 속내까지 땀으로 흠뻑 다젖었어요. 그래서 밖에다가 말리지 않으면 안 됐습니다. 이걸 보게 되면은 얼마나 하나하나의 심령을 생각하시고 아버님은 때로는 통곡하시면서 때로는 웃으시면서 때로는 참으로 간절한 심정으로 우리에게 하나님은 살아계신다는 것을 보여주시는 그런 설교를 하시고 그런 말씀을 했었던 것입니다.
I remember how Father would speak with such energy that even in the wintertime, by the time that he was finished, his clothing would be soaked through and through. Sometimes he would weep as he was speaking. Sometimes he would laugh. But he would devote his entire energy to the extent that his clothing would be so soaked that we would have to hang it up to dry after he was finished. And that was how much Father invested himself in his words.
그 말씀을 들으시는 하나님께서 참으로 감동하시고 정말로 이 땅 위에 처음 지어 주시었던 본연의 그 동산을 그 세계를 꼭 이 아들을 중심 삼고 성사시키고 이루어 놓아야 되겠다는 간절한 심정을 하나님은 가지셨습니다.
And I'm sure that as God was listening to Father's sermons, God must have been moved. God must have felt that, yes, I can accomplish this will through this Son. He will accomplish it on this earth.
나는 아버님을 정말로 이북에서 나온 그때에 옥시 어머니, 승도 어머니, 김원필 선생 세 사람밖에는 없었어요. 그때부터 같이 하는데 언제든지 아버님은 정말로 언제나 되어진다, 이루어진다, 되어졌다, 걱정하지 말라 이런 말씀을 하시면서 우리들에게 격려해 주셨던 그 생각이 납니다.
When Father first arrived in South Korea from the north, there were only 3 people with him. Mrs. Ok, Mrs. Sungdo, and also Reverend Wonpyo Kim. But Father, regardless of that, was absolutely certain, absolutely confident that he could accomplish God's will in this earth.
모든 것을 홀로 행하시지 않고 정말로 여기에는 전 세계 인류를 살려야 되겠다고 하는 그런 간절한 심정이 동기가 되어서 아버님은 하나에서부터 10까지 정말로 있는 정성을 다 들여서 해 오셨던 것입니다.
Father never acted for his own sake. Instead, he always acted for the sake of the salvation of humanity.
전도뿐만 아니라 다른 사업하시는데도 아버님은 정성을 기울여서 이걸 내가 하는 것은 왜 하느냐 하면 전 세계 인류를 구원하고 살리기 위한 것이 동기가 돼서 하신다는 말씀을 몇 번이고 하셨던 것입니다.
And it was not just in a matter of evangelism, also in a matter of business. Father devoted the same degree of sincerity and dedication. He would say that I'm not doing this for my sake or for the sake of just this small group, but I'm doing this for the sake of entire humanity, to bring salvation to entire humanity.
아버님은 세계 인류를 걸고 세계 인류와 관계를 맺고 세계 인류를 중심 삼고 한다고 생각할 때는 목숨 다 내놓고 목숨을 걸고 아버님은 하셨던 것입니다.
Father was always thinking of salvation for humanity, and he was putting his life on the line for the sake of that salvation.
오늘 우리들도 내 자신의 무엇을 위해 할 때는 정말로 별로로 생각하지만은 여기에 우리가 한국 이민족을 걸고 이 조국을 걸고 또 더 나아가서 세계를 걸고 우리도 할 때는 정말로 있는 정성을 다 기울여서 아버님과 같이 하고도 부족을 느끼고 정말로 머리 숙여 감사하고 기도하면서 하지 않으면 안 될 것입니다.
So also for us today, the same is true. That if we are just doing something for ourselves, then it has little meaning and that is really nothing much. But if we do it for the sake of our country, if we do it for the sake of the world, if we do it for the sake of bringing salvation to all humanity, then it has value, and that is where our sincerity and dedication should be directed.
아버님은 정말로 하실 책임을 다하고 갔었습니다. 우리가 아쉽기는 조금 더 살아계셨더라면 얼마나 좋았을까 하지만은 정말로 아버님께서는 후계자도 세우시고 또 더 나아가서 당신이 하셔야 할 책임적 사명을 다 하셨다고 볼 수 있습니다. 왜 그러냐 하면은 정말로 아버님께서는 그냥 놀이 삼아 농담 삼아 하신 것이 아니었고 피와 살과 뼛속에서부터 우러나는 심정을 가지고 이 대왕을 세우시고 또 더 나아가서 어려웠던 가인과 아벨 하나 되기 힘든 그 역사였습니다마는 가인과 아벨이 하나 될 수 있는 길을 닦아 놓으시고 또 더 나아가서 정말로 아버님의 후계자로 대신자로 상속자로 세워놓으셨다는 것을 생각할 때에 조금 우리가 지혜가 있고 조금 우리가 정말로 아버님과 같은 심정을 가지고 있다고 한다면은 여기에 우리가 순응을 하고 한 마음과 한 뜻이 되어서 이 역사를 이루어 놓는 데에 전력을 기울여야 할 것으로 생각이 되어집니다.
Father accomplished his responsibility before he passed on to spirit world. Of course, we would have liked it if Father could be with us for a little longer. But Father accomplished all the responsibility that he needed to do. And he established his representative body and inheritor. And he paved the way for Cain and Abel to be able to unite. That historically very, very difficult thing was accomplished during Father's life. And so we need to understand that Father did not do this as some kind of a game or some kind of a joke, but he did it because he was completely serious about bringing God's will on this earth. And so we need to follow that. We need to submit ourselves to Father's will and to unite with that representative body and that inheritor, so that God's will can be accomplished on this earth.
후계자로 세우셨다 그러면은 아버님의 후계자 될 수 있는 그 내용을 가지고 계시고 우리 이대 왕님은 더 나가서 그것을 능히 하실 수 있는 그런 내적 외적 책임을 다할 수 있는 내용을 가지고 계셨기 때문에 아버님은 후계자로 세웠던 것입니다.
When Father established the second king as his representative body and inheritor, it was because he saw in him the potential and the ability to accomplish the internal and external responsibilities that he must do.
여러분들 아버님의 후계자가 되고 상속자, 대신자로 세울 때는 정말로 여기에는 그냥 간단하게 가볍게 세우신 것이 아니었고 아버님이 총정성을 다 기울여서 세우셨다고 우리는 믿지 않으면 안 됩니다.
When Father established his representative body and inheritor, he did not do so lightly. He did so only as a result of very deep prayer and sincerity and dedication. And so we need to believe in that.
다른 것보다도 우리 센츄리 이 교회에 소속된 분들은 남달리 우리가 앞장서서 정말로 아버님이 하시고자 원하시는 뜻을 우리가 알고 또 뿐만 아니라 느끼고 심정적으로나도 같이 동참해야 되겠다는 이 심정을 가지고 우리는 출발한 사람들입니다.
Especially the people who belong to the Sanctuary Church are people who are able to connect to our Father's heart and are able to walk in this path.
이대왕 되시는 우리 형제님께서도 정말로 중대한 또 중요한 이 책임을 양어깨 걸머 매시고 얼마나 정성 들이고 기도하시면서 적은 일에서부터 큰 일에 이르기까지 영계에 계시는 아버님의 기대에 어긋나지 않고 내가 기어코 이루어 드려야 되겠다는 심정을 가지고 계시기 때문에 우리는 이 왕님과 정말로 하나 되고 우리가 기도해 드려야 될 것으로 우리는 믿어야 하겠습니다.
Hyungjae-nim, as the second king of Cheongguk, has been given a great and hugely important responsibility. And he is praying and offering his cheongsong, sincerity and dedication in order to accomplish that. And so we also need to unite with him and also to pray with him and also to work with him so that he can accomplish.
여러분들 생각해 보세요. 아버님의 후계자의 이 사명을 내가 지니고 있다고 생각할 때에 우리 이대 왕님은 정말로 두렵고 떨리는 마음을 가지시고 만사의 모든 정성을 다 기울여서 하실 것으로 믿습니다.
Think how that must be. Think how it must feel to realize that you have been given the responsibility, the mission as Father's representative body and inheritor. It's a fearful thing. But the second king, though, is devoting his entire sincerity and dedication in order to accomplish that. So we need to unite with him and to work with him for that purpose.
그런데 2000년 전으로 돌아가서 생각해 볼 때 예수님의 제자인 도마도 그렇고 또 더 나아가서 빌립도 그렇고 다 뿐만 아니라 수제자였던 베드로도 정말로 닭 울기 전에 네가 나를 목숨 걸고 따라온다고 하지만은 3번 네가 나를 부인하려 할 때 절대로 그렇지 않습니다 했습니다마는 많은 여인들까지 와가지고 말하기를 당신도 그 당입니다 하고 베드로에게 얘기했을 때 아니라고 했을 그때에 닭이 3번 울었어요. 그랬으니 양심의 가책을 많이 받았을 것입니다.
But 2,000 years ago, look at the situation of the disciples, Philip, whom we had just read about, and also Thomas, and even Peter, who was the head disciple. Jesus said that that Peter would deny him before the cock crowed 3 times, and sure enough, when the people said, "Oh, you were one of the people who were following Jesus," Peter said, "No, I'm not." And exactly at that point, when he denied Jesus the 3rd time, that is when the cock crowed.
우리는 의심하지 말고 배신하지 말고 정말로 끝까지 하나님이 바라시고 아버님이 원하시는 뜻 그대로 우리가 정말로 확고부동한 자세로서 우리가 이 뜻을 따르고 이 길을 걸어야 된다고 참 맹세하고 또 맹세하지만은 육신이 약하여서 내가 그렇습니다고 많은 사람들이 얘기했던 것과 마찬가지로서 우리도 의심할 때가 많이 있습니다. 오늘 우리는 정말로 아버님과 같은 내가 이 뜻을 알고 난 다음에는 한 번도 나는 의심을 한 적도 없고 안 된다고 내가 생각하지 않았다는 말씀 그대로 오늘 우리를 또 그런 심정과 그런 자세로서 오늘 이 길을 우리들이 승리하면서 걸어가야 되겠습니다.
So let's not be like that. Let's not be like the disciples of Jesus. Instead, let's not doubt, let's not betray, but let's unite with the second king and continue to work with him. Father said that, let's remember that Father said that from the time that he came to know God's will, he never doubted. He never thought that this was not going to work, that he could not do it. But instead, he always maintained confidence. So let's also model ourselves after Father rather than the disciples of Jesus. And let's also be that way as Father was for us so that we can accomplish this will on this earth.
우리는 아버님께서 세우셨던 그대로 참 아버님의 대신자로 상속자로 우리가 정말로 마음에 받아들이고 믿고 나가서 우리가 하나 될 때에 비로소 여기에서 좋은 열매를 거둘 수 있고 맺을 수 있을 것으로 믿어 의심치 않습니다.
I'm sure that if we unite with the second king and believe in the mission that he has been given, believe in him, then we can accomplish things on this earth.
그래서 저는 간간히 생각해 보아요. 야, 아버님은 정말로 참 믿음을 가지시고 믿음을 세우시고 불신으로 타락한 전체를 아버님이 책임을 지고 이 뜻을 이루시려고 애타하시는 분이라는 것을 저는 절실히 느낄 때가 많이 있습니다.
I'm often reminded these days that of how Father was so urgent to accomplish God's will and how much he wanted to accomplish God's kingdom on this earth.
오늘도 우리들이 정말로 하나님이 바라시고 원하시는 그대로 끝까지 싸워 승리할 수 있는 자세가 되었느냐 이것을 늘 생각하면서 정말로 아버님이 바늘끝만큼 머리칼 하나만큼도 아버님은 정말로 불신하시지 않고 믿고 왔던 그 자세, 그 심정, 그 뜻을 우리도 상속받지 않으면 안 될 것입니다.
I think that we need to check ourselves all the time to see whether we have the proper attitude, the proper putting ourselves in the proper position to be able to accomplish God's will. Father did not doubt even slightly, even the smallest bit. But I think we need also to model ourselves after that and to do as Father did.
그렇게 나갈 때에 반드시 여기에는 하나님이 같이 하시지 않을 수 없고 아버님이 같이 하실 수 없고 또 하시지 않을 수 없고 또 예수님께서 영계에 있는 모든 문영인들이 협조해 주시고 함께해 주신다는 것을 우리가 믿고 나갈 때에 반드시 오늘 아버님의 명령 따라 살아보려고 명령 따라 움직이겠다고 나온 오늘 우리들이 승리의 깃발을 들 수 있을 때가 올 것으로 믿습니다.
When we do that, I know that God will help us. He will have to help us because when He sees our sincerity and dedication, when He sees our attitude, Father will help us, and all the spirit men and the spirit world will also help us. And when we believe in that, we'll be able to do God's work and accomplish God's work and accomplish God's victory here on this earth.
오늘 정말로 우리들이 불붙는 심정과 신념의 찬 자세를 가지고 나아갈 때는 여기에는 하나님이 도와주시는 반면에 모든 전체가 우리의 편이 되어서 동행해 주시고 동사해 주시고 동력해 주신다는 것을 믿고 나갈 때 여기에는 반드시 승리가 올 것입니다.
When we believe that God will work with us, and when we believe that Father and all of the spiritual will work with us, then we can accomplish the victory on this earth.
오늘 우리가 이런 신념과 확신을 가지고 나가면은 우리에게 하나님은 그대로 두시지 않고 심판하는 권세를 우리에게 주시는 것입니다. 2000년 전 예수님이 시작할 때도 예수를 믿으면 구원받고 믿지 않으면 멸망한다는 이 말씀 그대로 신념과 확신을 가지고 나가면 역시 우리에게도 이러한 심판의 권세를 주셔서 어떤 역사가 벌어지느냐 하면은 정말로 우리들이 불타는 심정을 가지고 갈 때는 여기에는 모두가 다 우리 편이 되어서 같이 해 주신다는 것을 이 아침 우리는 굳게 믿어야 하겠습니다.
When we believe and have this conviction, then God will give us the power to give judgment. Just as 2,000 years ago, Jesus said that those who believe in me will be saved, and those who do not believe in me will be destroyed. And the same will be true. That is that those who believe in the word that we give, in the word that of God that we give, will be saved. But those who are rejected will go the way of destruction. But that is the mission that we are given in today's world.
오늘 우리들이 아버님을 참으로 이 땅 위에 오신 분으로 믿고 또 우리가 전하게 되면은 영생의 기쁨을 모든 사람들의 가슴에 심정에 마음에 우리가 심을 수 있을 것입니다.
When we go out and tell people that Father is the one who is returned, He's the returning Lord, then we will be able to plant in people's hearts great joy.
옛날 저는 참 신념에 차고 하나도 의심하지 않고 믿고 나가는 이 믿음을 가지고 나갈 때는 길가에서 관상을 보는 아저씨도 증거를 합니다. 아, 당신은 참 진리를 소유한 사람같이 보입니다고. 길가에서 고구마를 팔고 앉았던 아주머니도 증거해 줬어요. 뭐라고 하는 건 당신은 걸어가는 것이 아니고 날아다니는 비행기같이 보입니다. 새같이 보입니다고 증거해 주더라고요.
Mrs. Kyle remembers that when she would go out witnessing, and when she was really filled with the Spirit, and people would testify to her. One person said, "Oh, you look like a person who is filled with the truth, that is bringing the truth." That's what a person said, just a person that she happened to pass by on the road. Another woman who was selling sweet potatoes alongside the road said, "Oh, you look like you're not just walking, but you look like you're flying. You look like a bird." This is the way that people would testify to her when she was filled with the Spirit.
이거는 우리 마음 자세가 문제입니다. 옛날 이스라엘 민족이 믿고 순종하고 나갔던 그 여호수아 갈렙은 어디에 들어가느냐? 가나안 땅에 그는 들어가서 승리의 깃발을 들고 나는 승리했습니다. 했습니다. 마찬가지로서 오늘 우리들 60만 대중이 다 애굽을 출발해서 가나안 땅을 들어가려고 했지만은 그 60만이 다 떨어지고 믿고 나갔던 신념과 확신을 가졌던 여호수아 갈렙만이 가나안 땅에 들어갈 수 있었던 것입니다.
When we look at the Israelites at the time of their exodus from Egypt, many people left. They took their only their physical bodies with them, though, but those physical bodies were destroyed in the wilderness. Only Joshua and Caleb, were able to go into Canaan among the first generation and to plant the flags of victory. Say, here we have gained victory here.
애굽은 말하자면은 지옥을 상징한 세상 지옥을 상징하고 가나안은 천국을 상징하는 것입니다.
Egypt symbolized hell or the secular world, and Canaan symbolized the kingdom of heaven.
그래서 우리는 지금 남들이 볼 때 손가락질하고 이단이라고 합니다마는 오늘 우리는 정말로 절대적인 믿음과 또 더 나아가서는 우리들은 아주 확신을 가지고 우리가 나갈 때에 우리가 믿고 왔던 그대로 우리가 확신했던 그대로의 역사를 우리는 볼 수 있고 그대로 되어질 수 있을 것입니다.
Today, we are mocked by people as heretics, but when we go forward with complete conviction, we will be able to gain victory and establish God's will on this earth.
마찬가지로 오늘 가나안은 천국입니다. 천국을 상징하는 것입니다. 이 천국을 여호수아 갈렙만은 소유했습니다마는 그때에 불순종하고 불신했던 자들은 다 광야에서 독수리밥이 되었던 것입니다. 우리가 꼭 그러한 입장에 지금 놓여 있습니다.
Today, our Canaan is the kingdom of heaven. That is where we are going. In the time of the Exodus, only those who believed in the possibility and the victory that was coming were able to survive the wilderness and go into Canaan. Only two, Joshua and Caleb. The others were all destroyed and became the food of birds of prey in the wilderness.
우리에게 아버님은 몇 번이고 말씀해 주시고 가르쳐 주었습니다마는 아직도 우리는 못 믿을 때가 너무도 많고 또 정말로 하나님이 보실 때에 영계 아버님께서 보실 때에 아직도 못 믿느냐 하고 꾸짖으실 때가 많이 있을 것으로 압니다. 이 아침 우리는 정말로 절대적인 신앙을 가지고 아버님 하나님 이만하면은 되지 않았습니까? 할 수 있으리만큼 신념과 확신 자신을 가지고 우리들이 나아가서 우리들의 확신과 우리들의 자신 여기에 하나님도 감동해서 우리들을 협조해 주시지 않을래야 않을 수 없는 놀라운 기적의 역사를 오늘 우리들은 불일으켜야 하겠습니다.
Father taught us, but even though Father taught us often, but still we were not able to learn. We were not able to really listen to him and to make that teaching a part of ourselves. But if we can open our hearts to Father's teaching and to receive that teaching into his hearts and to have complete conviction into the victory of our Father's will, then I know that we can accomplish God's will on this earth.
이제부터는 정말로 이 말씀의 가치가 점점 커져서 아버님은 지금 세상적으로 보면은 영계에 가셨습니다마는 이제 아버님을 나라의 대통령이 찾아와서 원리 앞에 숭배하며 원리의 주인공으로 모시며 국왕이 찾아와서 정말로 원리 말씀 앞에 만세를 부리며 이 말씀은 참으로 불변의 말씀이니 우리는 따라야 하겠습니다. 불변의 진리니 내 나라와도 바꿀 수 없습니다 하면서 두 손들 놀라운 역사를 우리가 일으켜야 하겠습니다.
Father has passed away according to the view of the secular world, but I know that he certainly lives, and that the time is coming when kings and queens and heads of state of governments will come and bow down to him and will recognize him as the owner of the principle and as the savior for all humanity.
이사야 40장 이하를 보게 되면은 어떤 내용이 쓰여져 있느냐 하면 동방에 정말로 주님께서 오시는데 여기에 모든 전체를 드리고 바치고 쏟아야 되겠다고 줄지어 나올 수 있는 사람들이 우후죽순같이 일어난다고 말씀했습니다.
Isaiah 40, chapter 40 says that that talks about people coming, that the Messiah coming from the east, and that people will worship and bow down to that Messiah.
그래서 이 원리를 내시니가 정말로 오신 주님이라고, 오신 재림 주님이라고 한다면은 나는 우리 이 나라를 원리의 주인 앞에 바치겠습니다 할 수 있는 사람들이 많이 나타날 것입니다.
People will see this. People will recognize it, and they will dedicate themselves to the principle, to the divine principle, and to accomplishing God's will.
그날을 위하여서 우리들은 매일매일 나를 체크하면서 나는 어느 정도의 자리에 서 있으며 정말로 옛날 예수님의 제자 빌립과 같이 그렇게 의심하는, 도마와 같이 의심하는 자리에 가지 말고 100% 우리들이 절대적으로 믿고 나가서 이 믿음이 정말로 다시 소생하고 다시 재창조하고 다시 새로운 기적을 일으킬 수 있는 이 기대를 우리들은 놓아야 할 것으로 생각합니다. 감사합니다.
We need to check ourselves day by day and make sure that we are not falling into the kind of doubt that Philip experienced or that Thomas experienced, but instead that we have complete conviction in the coming kingdom, and that we have complete conviction that people will be recognizing this and bowing down to Father and to coming to Father. And then when we have that conviction, we can accomplish that in reality in this world. Thank you very much.
내가 믿은 대로 된다는 그 말씀 그대로 오늘 우리들은 이 믿음으로서 정말로 믿어왔던 모든 전체를 우리는 열매 맺고 성공시킬 수 있는 자리에 들어가야 하겠습니다.
So, Father, I remind you that Father told Mrs. Kang that things would be accomplished as to the extent that she believed. So also, we need to remember that that is still true today, that things will be accomplished to the extent that we are able to believe. Thank you. 감사합니다. Thank you, Mrs. Kang. We'll take a short break now and be back in about a minute or so.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
Car Arms, Magnum Research, and Auto Ordnance. The Car Firearms Group. With a diverse product line that blends American craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology. It's no secret why gun enthusiasts choose Car Firearms Group. From the Desert Eagle and Baby Desert Eagle made famous by Hollywood. The history of the 1911 and the Tommy gun. To the best in compact concealed carry. Car Firearms Group is not only the first name in personal defense, it's a name that has earned the respect of gun enthusiasts around the world. Concealment, innovative technology, value, accuracy, and history. Car Firearms Group. Made in the USA. Visit car.com today.
And love this world I'll overcome. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. Let hope arise and make the darkness hide. My faith is dead, I need a resurrection somehow. No, I'm lost in your freedom. And this world I'll overcome. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. He's roaring. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name. At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
And welcome back to the King's Report for Thursday, June 29th, 2017, 8th year of Chungi, the second fifth month and the sixth day by the heavenly calendar. I want to begin this morning with this story that is on Fox. I see it on Fox. Vatican cardinal hit with sex assault offenses. Takes leave, will fight charges. It says Australian police charged a top Vatican cardinal on Thursday with multiple counts of historical sexual assault offenses, a stunning decision certain to rock the highest levels of the Holy See. Cardinal George Pell, Pope Francis's chief financial advisor and Australia's most senior Catholic, said in an early morning appearance at the Vatican that he would take a leave of absence as the Vatican's finance czar and would return to Australia to fight the charges. He denied the accusations and denounced what he called a relentless character assassination in the media. Pell is the highest-ranking Vatican official to ever be charged in the Church's long-running sexual abuse scandal. Police Deputy Commissioner Strain Patton in Australia's Victoria State said police have summoned Pell to appear in court to face multiple charges of historical sexual assault offenses, meaning offenses that generally occurred some time ago. Patton said there are multiple complaints against Pell, but gave no other details on the allegations against the Cardinal. Pell was ordered to appear in Melbourne Magistrates Court on July 18th. For years, Pell, 76, has faced allegations that he mishandled cases of clergy abuse when he was Archbishop of Melbourne and later Sydney. But more recently, Pell himself became the focus of a clergy sex abuse investigation, with Victoria detectives flying to the Vatican last year to interview the Cardinal. It is unclear what allegations the charges announced Thursday relate to, but two men, now in their 40s, have said that Pell touched them inappropriately at a swimming pool in the late 1970s when Pell was a senior priest in Melbourne. Patton told reporters in Melbourne that none of the allegations against Pell have been tested in any court, adding, Cardinal Pell, like any other defendant, has the right to due process. Specific details about the multiple complaints brought up against Pell were not detailed by Victoria State Police Deputy Commissioner Shane Patton. The charges were today served on Cardinal Patton's legal representatives in Melbourne, and they have been lodged also at the Melbourne Magistrates Court. Cardinal Pell is facing multiple charges in respect of historic sexual offenses, Patton said, according to news.com.au. The charges are a new and serious blow to Pope Francis, who has already suffered several credibility setbacks in his promised zero-tolerance policy about sex abuse. Their charges will also further complicate Francis's financial reform efforts at the Vatican, which were already strained by Pell's repeated clashes with the Italian-dominated bureaucracy. Just last week, one of Pell's top allies, the Vatican Auditor General, resigned without explanation 2 years into a 5-year term, immediately raising questions about whether the reform effort was doomed. Vatican spokesman George Burke said Pope Francis had learned with regret of the charges and had granted Pell a leave of absence to defend himself. He said the Vatican's financial reforms would continue in his absence. Pell's actions as Archbishop came under intense scrutiny in recent years by a government-authorized investigation into how the Catholic Church and other institutions have responded to the sexual abuse of children. Australia's Royal Commission into Institutional Responses to Child Sex Abuse, the nation's highest form of inquiry, has found shocking levels of abuse in Australia's Catholic Church, revealing earlier this year that 7% of Catholic priests were accused of sexually abusing children over the past several decades. Last year, Pell acknowledged during his testimony to the Commission that the Catholic Church had made enormous mistakes in allowing thousands of children to be raped and molested by priests over centuries. He conceded that he, too, had erred by often believing the priests over victims who alleged abuse. And he vowed to help end a rash of suicides that has plagued church abuse victims in his Australian hometown of Ballarat. Australia has no extradition treaty with the Vatican, but in a statement from the Sydney Archdiocese, Pell said he would return to Australia as soon as possible, following advice and approval by his doctors. Last year, Pell declined to return to Australia to testify for the third time before the Royal Commission, saying he was too ill to fly. He instead testified via video conference from Rome. The Blue Knot Foundation, an Australian support group for adult survivors of childhood abuse, said the decision to charge Pell sent a powerful message to both abuse survivors and society as a whole. It upholds that no one is above the law, no matter how high their office, qualifications, or standing, the group's head of research, Pam Stavropoulos, said in a statement. The charges put the Pope in a thorny position. In 2014, Francis won cautious praise from victims' advocacy groups when he created a commission of outside experts to advise him and the broader church about best practices to fight abuse and protect children. But the commission has since lost much of its credibility after its 2 members who were survivors of abuse left. Francis also scrapped the commission's signature proposal, a tribunal section to hear cases of bishops who covered up for abuse, after Vatican officials objected. In addition, Francis drew heated criticism for his 2015 appointment of a Chilean bishop accused by victims of helping cover up for Chile's most notorious pedophile. The Pope was later caught on videotape labeling the parishioners who opposed the nomination of being leftists and stupid. Francis appointed Pell in 2014 to a 5-year term to head the Vatican's new economic secretariat, giving him broad rein to control all economic, administrative, personnel, and procurement functions of the Holy See. The mandate has since been restricted to performing more of an oversight role. Wow. So this man has been accused, and he says he's innocent. He's going to go and defend himself. And I think it will be very important to see what testimony, what evidence comes out from this, and what decisions of the court comes out of this. I'm struck here by especially where it says that last year Pell acknowledged during his testimony to the commission that the Catholic Church had made enormous mistakes in allowing thousands of children to be raped and molested by priests over centuries. That is a very candid statement, I think, and it thousands of children over centuries. I don't know if it's thousands or tens of thousands or even more than that. The Second King has ruled that people who receive the communion wine in the Catholic Church will need to be blessed again. That is to say that taking the communion wine in the Catholic Church has the same effect as taking the false wine of the Family Federation, and this is the same effect as committing the sexual fall. And so those who receive the communion wine in the Catholic Church will need to be blessed again. This is a ruling that the king has made recently, because I think this kind of thing shows very much how that comes to us, and it comes to us from Father through the king. And even if this man is innocent, we see that he has already told a commission here that the Catholic Church, priests in the Catholic Church, have been raping and molesting children. Thousands, according to him, thousands. Perhaps I would suspect that that's minimizing it, and that is probably more like tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands over the centuries. Over centuries, the Catholic Church has been doing this. And when the survivors tried to talk to the Vatican about also holding the bishops accountable for covering up abuse by priests, then they are blocked. This shows how the organization is being placed above God's will. Organization is being placed above the bringing of salvation, and that is what also happened in the Family Federation, where the preservation of the organization becomes paramount. And in order to preserve the organization, sin is covered up. Sin is ignored. Well, but the sin never goes away, and it just gets greater and greater and greater and greater and greater, like a cancer, until it finally destroys so many people that it can no longer be ignored. Here we have thousands of children over centuries, according to this man's testimony before a commission. Thousands of children over centuries that the Catholic Church has been raping and molesting. That alone, that one sentence alone, justifies the king making this ruling that taking the wine of communion in the Catholic Church will have the same effect as committing the sexual sin. I know there are many people who come to the Unification Church from a Catholic background, and I know some of those people still have great affinity for the Catholic Church. And there are certainly good people in the Catholic Church, just as there are good people in the Family Federation, just as there were good people who were Nazis, just as there were good people who were in the Communist Party. But the Catholic Church is a satanic organization, and it's important that we separate ourselves from it completely, and to come out of that organization completely, and to unite ourselves with God's will, unite ourselves with our true Father and with His representative and heir who has been placed on this earth to carry out God's will. This is a story that's going to be developing over the next weeks and months, and we will certainly follow it. There will be a trial in Australia, and given the man's position, I'm sure that it will get a great deal of international attention, and we will be following it very closely. Following it closely, especially to see it's not just about this man as an individual, but through this trial, I expect that a lot of stuff about the Catholic Church will be coming out, and the world will be learning exactly what kind of an organization the Catholic Church has become. Not a Church of Christ, but a Church of Satan. All right, let's take a short break, and we'll come back with more news from a Choni perspective after about a minute or so.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
Car Arms, Magnum Research, and Auto Ordnance. The Car Firearms Group. With a diverse product line that blends American craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology. It's no secret why gun enthusiasts choose Car Firearms Group. From the Desert Eagle and Baby Desert Eagle made famous by Hollywood. The history of the 1911 and the Tommy gun. To the best in compact concealed carry. Car Firearms Group is not only the first name in personal defense, it's a name that has earned the respect of gun enthusiasts around the world. Concealment, innovative technology, value, accuracy, and history. Car Firearms Group. Made in the USA. Visit car.com today.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
Welcome back to the King's Report for Thursday, June 29th, 2017. We're in the 8th year of Chungi, the second fifth month and the sixth day by the heavenly calendar. Let's look at this story in the Breitbart. China's national oil company suspends sales to North Korea. And much of this story is based on a Reuters story, and we may go to that. But Reuters reported on Wednesday that China's state-controlled National Petroleum Corporation has suspended fuel sales to North Korea for an undetermined period of time. CNPC is the primary supplier of fuel to North Korea. On the surface, it appears that China is using its ultimate leverage with Pyongyang. Threats to North Korea's oil supply are regarded by some observers as the best way to tell when Beijing truly loses patience with its psychotic client state. It also seems noteworthy that the Chinese move comes after President Trump's public expressions of frustration with China regarding the North Korean crisis, and rumbles from the administration that new sanctions against China may be forthcoming. The sanctions most immediately in the prospect concern Chinese complicity in human trafficking. The U.S. State Department published a report on Tuesday labeling China one of the worst human trafficking nations in the world, with Secretary of State Tex Tillerson citing China's importation of forced North Korean labor as one of the most serious offenses. This report has been widely interpreted as a sign of deteriorating U.S.-China relations, and perhaps even as focused retaliation for China's failure to bring North Korea to heel, even though the report was surely under construction for a long time, and frankly, China's human trafficking problems are so severe that willful blindness would be required to ignore them. The Chinese government claims the decision to suspend North Korean oil sales is commercial in nature, not a punitive action against Kim's regime's pursuit of nuclear missiles. To put it bluntly, the Chinese say they are afraid of North Korea. They are afraid North Korea will not pay the bills for its oil shipments, due largely to the impact of international sanctions against the regime's missile and nuclear programs. As Reuters portrays it, there is some degree of confusion in the Chinese government and CNPC management about which fuel sales were suspended and why. One source suggested that the Chinese are making a more vigorous effort to cooperate with sanctions against North Korea, and they realize their efforts will make it harder for Pyongyang to pay its bills. Reuters analysts found substantial evidence for a significant reduction of Chinese oil shipments to North Korea last month, reflected by much higher gas prices in the outlaw state. Complete data for June will be needed before analysts can determine if there is a lasting policy trend or a one-month statistical blip. Crude oil shipments from China to North Korea don't seem to have been significantly reduced yet, just processed gasoline and diesel fuel. That's an important statement. Crude oil shipments from China to North Korea don't seem to have been significantly reduced yet, just processed gasoline and diesel fuel. We read yesterday about this guy that defected in 2014, and he's going to be mentioned here in a minute. He pointed out that China has a pipeline of oil pipeline going into North Korea, and 500,000 tons of oil is pumped through that pipeline every year. And we also learned some weeks ago, I guess, that North Korea does have one refinery that it is able to refine crude oil. It's a small one, but they do have one refinery. A report at oil.com suggests that the spike in North Korean gas prices may have been caused by fear of a possible Chinese oil embargo rather than the more modest actions they have already taken. The South China Morning Post reported on Wednesday that according to a high-ranking defector, North Korea has largely managed to shift its fuel imports to Russia, which would greatly reduce China's oil leverage. It is a wrong perception that North Korea is completely dependent on China, said defector Ri Jong-ho, whom we read about yesterday. He said dictator Kim Jong-un's plan to replace Chinese oil with imports from Russia has been moving ahead at full steam since 2014, when a visit from Chinese President Xi Jinping to South Korea infuriated Kim and prompted him to begin viewing China as an enemy state. The Chinese president had visited South Korea, but he has not yet visited North Korea since he came into office. And Kim Jong-un is not happy about that. If Ri's assessment is correct, then some of the public confusion from the Chinese government over suspended fuel sales to North Korea might be due to the reluctance of Chinese officials to admit they have lost much of their leverage over Pyongyang. China has traditionally profited greatly from selling itself as the last resort for curbing the worst excesses of the Kim regime. If that posture is now a bluff, Beijing will not want it to be called, and the current suspension of fuel sales might really be understood as apprehension over North Korea's willingness and ability to pay. There you go. Shift the North Korea card, the North Korea portfolio from Xi Jinping to Putin. Let Putin take care of North Korea. I have a feeling Putin will do a better job. Let's go to this article in the South China Morning Post. You know, the South China Morning Post used to be a really great newspaper prior to Hong Kong being returned to China at the end of the century. Now, South China Morning Post, is under a lot greater control and limitations on the freedom of press, and so it's not as good as it used to be, but it's still pretty good. Now, this article is about that same interview that we read about yesterday, but it's a different newspaper, so it covers it from a slightly different perspective. After all, Hong Kong is a lot closer to North Korea, not just geographically, but also in terms of the dealings. North Korea has a lot of dealings in Hong Kong, and so the people who write this article for this newspaper have a great deal more knowledge about North Korea, and so they focus on something other than what the article that we read yesterday does. here, so starting in the, we don't want to cover what we already covered yesterday, so starting in the middle of the article, Ri also said North Korea relies more on Russia than China for fuel to keep its economy moving, indicating that the U.S. drive for Beijing to restrict oil supplies over Pyongyang's nuclear and missile programs will only have a limited effect. So I guess America's going to have to talk to Putin as well. It is a wrong perception that North Korea is completely dependent on China, he said. Petroleum products have been shipped to North Korea by tankers leaving Vladivostok and Nakhodka, both in the Russian Far East, and with the fuel widely used for cars, ships, and trains, hoping to support the North Korean economy, Ri said. Let me see if I can go down here a little bit more. Yeah, okay. Other sources familiar with the fuel deal said the petroleum products ending up in North Korea are often purchased by brokers who claim they are destined for China, with the items procured using forged paperwork. Oh, forging paperwork in Asia? That never happens, does it? Ri, who defected to South Korea with his family, so the secretive entity, said to have been established by former North Korean leader Kim Jong-il in May 1974, is subject to international sanctions. We know about that. But it is engaged in illicit economic activities and the management of slush funds for the leadership. So Ri said that North Korea has been trying to reduce its economic reliance on China, Pyongyang's most important benefactor, since leader Kim Jong-un issued an order to expand trade with Russia and Southeast Asian countries in August of 2014. And this came right after Xi Jinping's visit to South Korea. And according to Ri, Office 39 has 5 central groups and systematically acquires foreign currency by sending laborers overseas. See, they're engaged in human trafficking. This is the forced labor that the State Department report was referring to. By sending laborers overseas as well as through gold mining and exports. It is an organization that manages the supreme leader's coffers. You know who the supreme leader is, right? Kim Jong-un. And the party's funds to rule the country. It also leads trade activities to earn foreign currency, Ri said. The office has enormous power as it is directly linked to the leadership and is independent of the other government organs, he said. Ri admitted that Office 39 has evaded UN sanctions by asking Chinese and Russian contacts to allow the use of their names for the opening of bank accounts for trade settlement. So, again, you know, I've been saying, what is the effect of sanctions, you know, if they're able to get around it this easily? What's the effect? The activities of Office 39 require the involvement of hundreds of thousands of people. Wow, this is not just one office. You know, the name is Office 39, but hundreds of thousands of people are involved in this, including those in rural areas who produce items for export. Ri said the bureau is now headed by Chun Il-chun. Chun Il-chun, I guess you read it. Don't know the pronunciation without seeing it in the Korean script. First Vice Department Director of the party's Central Committee and a former classmate of Kim Jong-il, the current leader's father. A native of Wonsan on North Korea's east coast, Ri was told to work in Pyongyang by the Central Committee in the mid-1980s. He operated a shipping company at Office 39's Daehoon Group and later headed a trade control section in the group between 98 and 04. The Daehoon Group earns revenue through farm exports and shipping operations, among other means, with exclusive rights to trade matsutake mushrooms. Matsutake is the Japanese, what's the English name of that? Anyway, matsutake, those are very good mushrooms, and snow crabs. It is actively shipping those products to Japan before Tokyo imposed a total ban on trade with the North about 10 years ago. The 4 other central groups are Kumgang, which dominates gold export activities, Daesung, involved in shipment of processed products and intermediate trade overseas, Daesung Bank, in charge of the office's banking operations, and the group dispatching workers to other countries. There was a video on YouTube about North Korean workers in Poland, and I remember that, asked about the possibility that the foreign currency earned by North Korea is being used for its nuclear and missile development program. Ri only said, it is up to the supreme leader how to use the funds. So, you know, he can use them for BMWs, he can use them to make new water parks or ski resorts, for himself, or he can use them to develop nuclear weapons. North Korea receives 500,000 of Shikuda, we already know that. He also said the crude oil purchased from other countries is refined by foreign companies based in China, leading to the importation into North Korea of an additional 50,000 to 100,000 tons of gasoline. Despite holding a high rank, Ri decided to leave North Korea after Kim Jong-un's once powerful uncle Chunza was executed. Yeah, he was afraid for his own life, yeah. Okay, I could no longer tolerate such cruelty, you're right. He moved to the United States in March 2016 and currently lives in Washington. I see, so he first went to South Korea, and then after being there for a year and a half or so, he came to the U.S. Interesting. Let's also take a look at this other article that was mentioned back there about what can China do to rein in North Korea. What are China's options? Let's see, when was this published? Okay, this is June 23rd, so this is just a few days ago. Restrictions on tourists going to North Korea could also be let's see, where we go. Let's go to the top. Any punitive measures by Beijing against companies allegedly supporting North Korea would be carefully calibrated to push Pyongyang to stop its nuclear tests, but avoid being seen as giving in to U.S. pressure, analysts say. This is what North Korea accuses China always of doing, that whenever China tries to impose some kind of sanctions, then North Korea says, oh, you're just dancing to the music of the Americans. You're, in other words, trying to, poke and stir up a Chinese pride. Restrictions on tourists could also be an option after the death of an American student, although China also wanted to ensure that the regime remained stable. And don't want to, China doesn't want North Korea to collapse. Beijing was dismayed at Washington's repeated calls for China to sanction the companies, they said, even though U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson said both nations agreed Chinese firms should not do business with North Korean entities in accordance with the United Nations Security Council resolution. Wrapping up a one-day China-U.S. security dialogue on Wednesday, so this will be Wednesday of last week, Tillerson said China had diplomatic responsibility to exert economic pressure on Pyongyang, which had become more volatile with its repeated nuclear missile tests. I'm not sure I understand the significance of this drawing here. Anyway, pressure is mounting on China to do more to rein in its reclusive neighbor. Tillerson said last week the U.S. expects. I guess that's. I don't think it's appropriate for the U.S. to just give China a list of Chinese companies to punish, said Lu Qiao, director of the Border Study Institute at the Liaoning Academy of Social Sciences, situated in the province that borders North Korea. If the U.S. finds that any of the Chinese companies have violated the U.S. resolution, it should point out the wrongdoing so that China can take the necessary measures to punish those companies, Lu said, adding that a gap in perceptions over the objective of economic sanctions could lead to disappointment for the U.S. As a traditional ally of Pyongyang's largest trade partner, Beijing said it would stop buying North Korean coal, a major source of hard currency for Pyongyang. In February, it was a move Beijing said was part of its effort to implement UN sanctions after Pyongyang launched its fifth nuclear test in September. It will take time to see the effects, which will be more and more evident according to our research. Lu said China is working on things, and I believe it is playing a big role in curbing Pyongyang's stable nuclear ambition. Tensions between U.S. and North Korea have again escalated since the death of 22-year-old student Otto Warmbier Monday. Meanwhile, shortly before the China-U.S. talks, U.S. President Trump said on Twitter he might give up hope that Beijing could exert any meaningful pressure on North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. We saw that. This associate professor of international relations at Renmin University of China said the U.S. has more reason to press Beijing over North Korean issues given worldwide outrage over the brutal regime's treatment of Warmbier. He added that introducing a travel ban rather than stopping exports of crude oil would be more likely to be accepted by Beijing, which would prefer to preserve the status quo on the peninsula. the U.S. may take a series of retaliatory and strong measures against North Korea, and we can't rule out the possibility that it may take unilateral action unless Pyongyang releases the other 3 American citizens in detention in North Korea, Chang said. So what we've learned this morning is that China has turned the screws just a little bit more, maybe another quarter turn or so, putting a little more pressure on North Korea. They have not stopped the 500,000 tons of oil that is going through the pipeline to North Korea, but they have stopped some of the other oil that is going to North Korea. But North Korea may be getting that oil from Russia anyway, so we're not sure what effect that will have. So China may be trying, or at least trying to let us think that they are trying. But the proof is in the pudding, and I'm afraid that we're not going to like the taste of that pudding. I don't think that this is going to bring the desired result. I think still we're not any farther away from military action than we were yesterday, I'm afraid. The situation on the Korean Peninsula still remains extremely volatile, and military confrontation could happen at any time. I think if China becomes convinced that Trump is actually going to take military action, then maybe China will preempt that action with a military action of its own in order to stop the United States from going into North Korea. Certainly the worst case scenario for China would be that the United States fights North Korea in a war and begins to station its troops north of the DMZ, even along the Yalu River, or that the Korean Peninsula is unified as a country that is allied with the United States, or is at least friendly with the United States. For China, those would be the worst possible options. For them, the best option is that somehow the current regime is maintained as a stable regime. But in order to do that, North Korea needs to give up its nuclear ambitions, because it is those nuclear ambitions now that are threatening the stability of the North Korean regime, even though North Korea believes the opposite. It believes that nuclear weapons give it stability, and it is their best defense against foreign invasion, but the opposite is true. And I think 10 years from now, probably 10 years from now, we will be studying North Korea as a case study in how the acquisition of nuclear weapons undermines and destroys a government and a country. That's what I predict. A prediction. Check back with me in 10 years to see if it was true or not. All right, let's take a break, and we'll come back with more news from a Tony perspective in a minute or so.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
Car Arms, Magnum Research, and Auto Ordnance. The Car Firearms Group, with a diverse product line that blends American craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology. It's no secret why gun enthusiasts choose Car Firearms Group. From the Desert Eagle and Baby Desert Eagle made famous by Hollywood, the history of the 1911 and the Tommy gun, to the best in compact concealed carry. Car Firearms Group is not only the first name in personal defense, it's a name that has earned the respect of gun enthusiasts around the world. Concealment, innovative technology, value, accuracy, and history. Car Firearms Group. Made in the USA. Visit car.com today.
Welcome back to the King's Report for Thursday, June 29, 2017. Before, I'm Tim Elder, by the way, sitting in for the second king of Cheongguk, Hyung Jin-moon. And before we move away from North Korea, there's just one other one I wanted to mention. We talk about there being 3 more Americans who are being held in North Korea. There may be a 4th, and this is a young man who I guess was a Mormon missionary to South Korea, and then he was traveling in China, and he disappeared in China while he was traveling in 2004. And the Chinese are saying that, well, he had an accident as he was traveling. He fell off a cliff. But then the parents went to China and did their own investigation and talked to people. They traveled the route that he had been traveling on and hiking on, and found pretty good evidence that what the Chinese are saying is not true. The Chinese say that he must have fallen off a bridge as he was crossing a gorge, but they found numerous witnesses who met and talked to this young man, their son, after he crossed that gorge successfully. And so they've it's circumstantial evidence, but they've taken that evidence to the U.S. Embassy and asked for help, but the U.S. Embassy is not helpful, saying that, well, you know, the Chinese have already investigated this and they decided that he had a hiking accident, and that's good enough for us. But it's not good enough for the parents. This young man spoke Korean. He was a missionary, Mormon missionary in South Korea for a time. And then, I'm not sure I guess he was I don't think he was a missionary in China. I think he was just traveling there. But he was in the Yunnan province, which is apparently, when people escape from North Korea, they sort of go there's kind of an underground railroad apparently that helps them escape to Southeast Asia. Because if they stay in China, they'll get caught by the Chinese authorities and sent back to North Korea. So when they try to escape to Southeast Asia, either to Thailand or places like that, and other countries around there, and then go from there to South Korea. And this young man happened to be traveling in an area that is known to be a part of that underground railroad. And so, of course, North Korean security officials are active there as well, and trying to catch these North Koreans who are trying to escape. So maybe the North Korean security officials thought that he was there to help the people who were escaping, or maybe they thought, hey, look, here's a guy that we can take back and give to Kim Jong-un as an English teacher. There are all sorts of theories, but North Korea does have a record of kidnapping people from countries and taking them to their country for various purposes. For a time, North Korea was kidnapping people off the beaches in Japan. They would approach the beach in a small submarine or something, and then, you know, there were cases, for example, when a young couple was, you know, doing what people do on beaches at night, and North Korean agents would come up out of the ocean and kidnap them and take them to North Korea, or also taking people out of fishing villages. And these people were used to help North Korean spies, to help train North Korean spies in Japanese language and customs and culture, so that these spies could go to Japan, blend in to the Japanese society, and then use Japan as a base for infiltrating South Korea. And other countries as well have reported that their citizens have been kidnapped to North Korea. This is a really terrible regime, you got to understand. They really do bad things. And it's not just the current leader. This is a tradition that goes back to his grandfather, Kim Il-sung, and to his father, Kim Jong-il. Of course, the famous case of a South Korean movie director and actress that were kidnapped to North Korea, and because the North Korean leader at the time liked their movies, and so they were kidnapped, and they had to make movies there for a while. They finally escaped back to South Korea after some years. So this young man, Dennis Snedden, I'm not going to go through the whole article, but it's on foxnews.com, and you can find it. And as I read it, it seems to me that there's a pretty good possibility that he may still be alive in North Korea, doing whatever it is that North Koreans want him to do. So when North Korea is finally liberated, when we finally open that place up, finally open the prison doors, we're going to find some surprising things, I think. And I really pray that that day can come as quickly as possible. Well, let's turn to Drudge now. CNN ratings crash and burn. Of course, we have this whole thing now going with really CNN on the defensive, with various things turning against it. They, of course, last weekend they had that disastrous story where they tried to link a Trump aide to a news scandal involving a investment fund in Russia, but then Breitbart.com investigated CNN's reporting and found it to be false. CNN was forced to retract the story and issue an editor's note saying that they had made a mistake, and also apologizing to one of the people that they had named in that article. 3 CNN reporters, journalists resigned or were forced to resign as a result of that whole thing. And then we had Veritas, Project Veritas, coming out with a video of an undercover interview with a supervising producer in CNN, talking about how he says his colleagues also really don't believe about the Russia story, but CNN continues to cover that story because it gives them good ratings. And even when CNN covered the climate accords, Trump's withdrawal from the Paris Climate Accord for a day and a half, then the CEO of CNN came in and said, okay, that's enough for that. Let's get back to the Russia story, because it's the Russia story that really brings the good ratings for CNN. So they're not trying to bring honest reporting to the American people. They're trying to bring ratings and money to themselves. But now those ratings crash and burn, it says. And just how much is, we'll see how much it's actually crashing and burning. This is from Adweek, scorecard, Tuesday, June 27th. Here are the numbers. We can look at those. CNN compared to Fox News. You can take a look at those. Wolf turned sheepish. Gingrich, CNN should bring in independent counsel to investigate fake news. Papers say AT&T will neutralize Zucker after Time Warner buy. Atkinson, well-funded actors manipulate news. Goodwin, a media boomerang. Woodward says knock it off. Atlantic editor-in-chief, Trump going to be responsible for violence against journalists. Well, who was responsible for the violence against those Republican congressmen who were shot? CNN warns it's getting dangerous for reporters. So almost as dangerous it is to be a Republican congressman, I guess. Huh? Trump urges passage of House immigration bills, joins with the victims of crime. Video, ICE director, no illegals should feel comfortable. House work week gets shorter. Explosion rocks Kentucky University. Georgetown dean, avowed supporter of Hezbollah. High tax Connecticut facing new budget mess. We know about Illinois. In fact, the next one is cash-strapped Illinois turning off a lottery. And Connecticut and New Jersey and Massachusetts, I understand, are in even worse financial situation than Illinois. Revealed Facebook's leaked censorship rules, sunset to change form as NASA says solar minimum is on the way. Human lifespan may have no limit, researchers say. Okay, so that means you have unlimited time to complete your individual characters so that you can move on to the spirit world. Couple, both 99, celebrates 80th wedding anniversary. Amazing. They've been married since they were 19 years old. Star Wars R2-D2 sells for $2.76 million. CNN investigates Obama's genes. New York Times editors decry humiliating process of layoffs. And New York Times is having to reduce its staff. News Corp NYC headquarters put on market. Ex-CIA agent going to jail for kidnapping of Muslim preacher in Italy. New travel ban to take effect Thursday evening. USA to seek more security on international flights. Airport screener pleads guilty to taking bribes. Smart kids live longer. Camera left in body after surgery, found 6 months later. I'd like to see the photos on that camera. Deposed Saudi prince confined to palace. Weekend Vegas braces for pot sales. Amsterdam on steroids. Massive marijuana bust, biggest since Colorado legalization. Feud between transgender groups leaves teen dead. Supermarket test surge pricing. Father, son, choke kidnapper, shoot him 5 times during robbery. Tim Tebow homers in first at bat after Mets promotion. Shock woman gives birth to child fathered by 11-year-old. Woman found dead in Walmart bathroom 3 days after entering store. Top aide to Pope faces 3 sexual assault charges. We read that. Australia's highest-ranking Catholic. Taxpayers funding animal tests for homemade abortions. Pizza-making robots have hot pie at door in 4 minutes. More West Wing leaks. Trump aides whisper he's clueless on health care. A woman fatally shoots boyfriend in failed YouTube stunt. Growing concerns over great white shark boom off Cape Cod. July 4th feeding fest. I guess it's not safe to go into the water. Patriot or government plant. Rumors fly over Venezuela helicopter attack. There was a police helicopter that attacked the Supreme Court. There was a kind of a interesting situation there. And go through a few of the headlines on Breitbart as well. NBC's Chuck Todd defends CNN, calls Trump administration war on the press a war on the truth. Wolf Blitzer potentially very dangerous for Trump to call the media an enemy of the people. 2 and 4, 6 fast facts from Donald Trump first immigration report. Flashback, Clinton's White House turned off cameras for press briefings, said they weren't necessary. China's national oil company suspends sales to North Korea. Jeff Bridges, I'm rooting for Trump to do well by our country. And then Pinkerton, 5 takeaways from Senate's stalled effort to undo Obamacare. Slate, women won't be equal until they murder and rape more people. LGBT conservatives are villains. Mid-credibility crisis, CNN Politics reports Obama's genes game gets stronger. Eric Erickson, the resurgent, turns against Evan McMullin, a tragedy in TED headlines. McConnell new health care bill by Friday. Reports swamp Republicans trash POTUS behind his back. Newt, CNN should bring in independent counsel to investigate fake news scandal. CNN anchor. In war zones, people emboldened by Trump. Protesters surround Qatar embassy. Stop killing Christians. Stop terror. Coulter, even Trump can't make Goldman Sachs popular. All right, let's take a break. Let's take our 5-minute break now, and we'll come back and we'll start going through some of these stories.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
God's not
explode and bring the dead to life. A love so bold to see a revolution somehow. And love explode and bring the dead to life. A love so bold to bring a revolution somehow. Now I'm lost in your freedom, and this world I'll overcome. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. Let hope arise and make the darkness hide. My faith is dead, I need a resurrection somehow. Now I'm lost in your freedom, and this world I'll overcome. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. He's roaring. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
Welcome back to the King's Report for Thursday, June 29th of 2017, 8th year of Changi, the second fifth month, the sixth day, and by the heavenly calendar. Let's go to this article on now CNN reporters saying that it's becoming dangerous to be a journalist. CNN's Clarissa Ward, a foreign correspondent, served as a guest co-host on Wednesday's broadcast of CNN's Newsday. Ward fretted that people in war zones have been emboldened by President Trump's declaration of war on the media. Ward, expressing concern for members of the media in dangerous areas of the world, said to guest Chris Cillizza, "I can only imagine what a person like you is dealing with. At what point does this become reckless or irresponsible?" It should be noted that Chris Cillizza is a Washington-based political correspondent and commentator. In other words, he doesn't really spend that much. Well, of course, Washington is pretty dangerous, that's true, but he's not spending that much time in those war zones. Playboy White House correspondent Brian Karem, who has received newfound fame after his exchange with the White House Deputy Spokeswoman Sarah Huckabee Sanders on Tuesday's press briefing, said Ward is absolutely right, and talked about the trial and tribulations of reporters who have been jailed and even killed. They're going to blame that on Trump as well? Come on. This is really, it's amazing how the journalists feel that they have some holy mission or holy status, that they are untouchable, and that whatever they do is somehow ordained by God, or of course they don't believe in God, but most of them. But they have this elitist feeling that they are the ones in the know, and that people should just listen to them and vote for whoever they choose for them. And how dare they choose Trump instead of Hillary, whom they were supporting all out. So this situation is really created by them. If they had been more objective, if they had been a little bit more objective, a little bit less so one-sided for Hillary in last year's election, then they would certainly not be facing this situation now. But now that they find themselves on the defensive, and now that they find themselves on the receiving end of criticism and anger, I think the American people are rightfully angry at journalists and the mainstream media for the way that they misled, and for the way that they just completely went overboard in their attempt to prevent Donald Trump from becoming president, even though he was the person who was eventually chosen by a democratic process to be president. And even after that, the media has been doing everything it can to undermine the president and to depose him. So the media has refused to accept the results of the November election. So yeah, I'm sure that there are a lot of people who are taking advantage of that situation. Our newspapers, after Donald Trump's election, we've gotten threats from both the far left and the far right, Karem said. They are emboldened. It is dangerous. And the fact of the matter is, it is insulting to the memory of the people who have given their lives for the cause of providing information to the public, to then be told you are fake media, you do not matter, and what you do is false. See that? That is a very revealing statement of their elitist ideology, that there are these people who have gone before, who have given their lives for bringing the truth to people, and so therefore you have to respect us because of that, because of the people who have gone before us. I mean, I would think that it's the journalists in the mainstream media, especially CNN, and New York Times, Washington Post, who need to repent that they are not living up to the memory of those people who went before them, and gave their lives to bringing the truth to the people. Repent. Karim went as far to predict we are going to see a reporter face physical harm because of Trump. Oh, okay, just like the Republican congressman faced physical harm because of CNN and because of what people have been saying. Yeah, that Republican congressman is still in the hospital. Give me a break. And quite frankly, every one of us should stand up against that because it is undermining the First Amendment. It is dangerous, making it dangerous. Oh, undermining the First Amendment. You mean like the conservative speakers who have tried to speak at universities and were shouted down? When did CNN stand up against that? It is dangerous, making it dangerous for reporters. You're absolutely right. There is going to come a time, and it's not going to be far off, I surmise, when we're going to see a reporter is going to face physical harm because of this, he said. Well, reporters face physical harm all the time. I think that they really are trying to play the part of the victim. And meanwhile, CNN boss in crosshairs if AT&T-Time Warner merger approved. AT&T will look to neutralize CNN President Jeff Zucker after it buys Time Warner, the Post has learned. The buzz from the telecommunications giant comes as CNN is being slammed for highly publicized missteps, including botched reports tied to the federal probe of possible collusion between President Trump's campaign and Russia, according to 3 sources familiar with the thinking of AT&T brass. The missteps, which also include a profane anti-Trump tweet by Reza Aslan, a CNN host, have made CNN too polarizing, an asset for execs at the blue-chip company, a source said. Aslan saw his CNN show Believer get canceled in the wake of the tweet. The $85 billion acquisition of CNN parent company Time Warner by AT&T could win antitrust approval by the Justice Department in the next 60 days, sources said. Okay, so here we don't really know who to root for, do we? Because CNN, in the Chinese Constitution, remember, news media organizations cannot be owned by corporations, which is exactly what we have today in America. Here we have CNN is owned by one corporation, and then that corporation is being bought out by another corporation. So it just gets more and more complex. And Time Warner right now, the current owner of CNN, is allowing all this to happen. But now AT&T, they're even more elitist to say, we don't want all this fighting going on. So we're going to neutralize the head of CNN, the CEO of CNN. So in a sense, that you might say that that's a good thing. That because CNN is certainly fighting President Trump awfully hard right now, and if AT&T could step in and make them stop, we might say that that's good. But from a Chinese perspective, it's not good that CNN is controlled by these corporations that are able to change the character of CNN's news coverage to fit their corporate needs. And that's exactly the kind of thing that Chinese Constitution seeks to avoid. So in Chinese Constitution, news media organizations can only be owned by individuals, presumably stockholders, in other words, so that it is accountable, so that news organizations are accountable to the people and not accountable to these rich corporations. There was early talk about the way Zucker managed that wasn't a good fit for the new organization, one source said. They were eyeing ways to neutralize him. That desire leaves Zucker facing an uncertain future that includes the possibility of getting unceremoniously dumped, one source said. Other potential scenarios include AT&T kicking the 52-year-old executive upstairs with a corporate title that strips him of any power over CNN, or a sale of the network that would let AT&T wash its hands of any future messes. The news business doesn't seem to be central to AT&T's content strategy, said Craig Moffett, a co-founder of independent media research firm MoffettNathanson. They seem much more interested in the entertainment brands. If selling CNN would make regulators happy, they'll sell it. I can't imagine AT&T would let CNN stand in the way of securing approval for the merger. Zucker could also cash out his significant holdings of Time Warner stock and walk away from the network filthy rich, media exec said. AT&T, when asked Wednesday about Zucker's future at CNN, seemed to dodge the question. We value all of Time Warner's assets and strongly believe that the combination of our companies will help ignite a new wave of innovation in media and entertainment, Larry Solomon, SVP, or Senior Vice President of Corporate Communications at AT&T, told the Post in a statement. Of course, AT&T would have to wait until the deal closes to make any personnel moves. If AT&T idles Zucker, it will be shunting aside an executive who more than doubled operating profits to roughly $1 billion over his tenure and just produced one of its highest-rated first quarters ever. At the same time, CNN, according to second quarter data released by Nielsen on Wednesday, slipped to third place among total viewers in both full-day and prime-time periods. CNN was number 2 in the coveted demographic of ages 25 to 49 in full day, but was third in prime time in that demo. What would be the reason to fire him? One CNN insider asked, adding AT&T would risk losing credibility and perhaps top news talent. Reps at Time Warner declined to comment. Yeah, so if AT takes over, maybe the war is over. The war between the White House and CNN. That would be an interesting development. That would kind of shift the war, I guess, then to New York Times, Washington Post, and to the other mainstream. So as we read in the worldtribune.com some days ago, the American journalism has really collapsed right now. It's really like Humpty Dumpty after the fall. And all the king's horses and all the king's men can't put them back together again. And so, but what we have out of this breakup and this chaos right now is new news organizations rising up. WorldTribune.com itself is one of those organizations, and another one is Breitbart, and another one is Project Veritas. Project Veritas has really been doing some really great undercover work, getting into these sort of sacred institutions like CNN, like Planned Parenthood, like the Democratic National Committee, and getting into those organizations and coming out with some very interesting video about how people in those organizations actually think, not what what they say through the filter of their PR executives, but what they actually think and about their jobs and about the American people. And we are learning some very shocking things as a result of that. Project Veritas really deserves to be commended for that. So these are the new news organizations that are rising up. They're small yet, but there is I think, a change going on where the existing organizations are collapsing and new ones are rising. And I'm sure that American journalism, in the end, will survive, and so CNN doesn't have to worry about all those people who died going before them. Their memory will stay alive, and their legacy will be protected. All right, thank you, and we'll take a minute or so for a break, and then come back with more news from a Choni perspective.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
Car Arms, Magnum Research, and Auto Ordnance. The Car Firearms Group. With a diverse product line that blends American craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology. It's no secret why gun enthusiasts choose Car Firearms Group. From the Desert Eagle and Baby Desert Eagle made famous by Hollywood. The history of the 1911 and the Tommy gun. To the best in compact concealed carry. Car Firearms Group is not only the first name in personal defense, It's a name that has earned the respect of gun enthusiasts around the world. Concealment, innovative technology, value, accuracy, and history. Carr Firearms Group. Made in the USA. Visit carr.com today.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name. At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name. At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
Welcome back to the King's Report for Thursday, June 29th, 2017. I'm Tim Elder, sitting in for the second King of Chanuguk, Hyungjin Moon, who I believe is on the second day of his marathon trek through the Colorado Rockies, and I'm sure we'll be hearing great reports of victory as soon as he returns from that. So let's pray for him, and for looks like he's having good weather there, he and his entire entourage, and so we just hope for pray for their safety. Meanwhile, let's take a look at something about the healthcare bill. As I've been saying, they're really off course, the people who are working on this, and they really need to be talking about the operation of the free market, because anytime government gets involved in something, it distorts the free market, and whenever that happens, you get higher prices, a lower quality, and which is exactly what we're getting. The Obamacare was a disaster, the attempts at repealing and replacing Obamacare have also been pretty much of a disaster. The House passed a bill, the Senate is trying to pass a bill, and apparently they have kind of put a self-imposed deadline on themselves as tomorrow to pass something, but it doesn't look like it's going to work. Pat Caddell joined Breitbart News Daily Sirius XM host Alex Marlow on Wednesday to discuss the Senate health care bill, as well as the fallout for CNN, as Project Veritas released an undercover video of a CNN producer admitting he thinks the network's Russia coverage is BS. Said Caddell on the health care bill, "I think the thing has been badly handled on the Republican side in the White House, particularly in terms of laying predicates down, making the case on Obamacare, and having a bill that explained what they were trying to do, which is unclear to me, but we're not having that." Continued Caddell, "The White House and the Republicans have lost this debate. They've lost it to the Democrats and the mainstream media, and there will be no balanced discussion of it. I think it's dead as a doornail at this point," he concluded. Yeah, I agree with that. I don't expect that the Senate will be passing anything today and tomorrow, or in fact any time this year, I expect. And I think basically what has to happen now is President Trump has to take a step back and assess the situation, and maybe talk to some people about what he wants, what exactly he wants to do. What is it about the Obamacare bill that he wants to get rid of, and what kind of a healthcare system does he want to institute in the United States? I hope that he will listen to people like Rand Paul, who have a vision for a very simple healthcare legislation, which relies a great deal on the free market. Healthcare doesn't really work in any country. There are some countries where it appears to be working, and I had some experience in South Korea where I went to an emergency room and only ended up having to pay out of my own pocket something less than $100. In fact, it was less than $50, I think. That was amazing. except the South Korean system is going bankrupt. But you see, it's the immediate experience that people have. Oh, I only had to pay $50 for an emergency room visit. That is what people experience, and that's what people see. Oh, look what they're doing in Britain or in Germany. But our brother in Germany told us about how he tried to make an emergency room visit, and they told him, he called him on Wednesday. They said, oh, come to us on Friday, and when you come, be ready to wait for hours and hours before we get to you. So there are always payoffs. There are always payoffs. You know, the cash coming out of your own pocket may be small, but then there are greater sacrifices later on and expenses later on for the country as a whole. So there's no country that has gotten health care right, I would say. So I think eventually we just have to all take a step back and say, hey, you know what? I have an idea. Why don't we give the free market a chance? See how that works. Everything else has failed. Who knows? It might work. When we come to that point, then we'll have a healthcare plan that will actually work in our society. In the Cheonryu Constitution, the federal government is prohibited from becoming involved in healthcare. Yeah. So we are hopefully moving towards that direction soon. NASA, the sun is set to change form. As NASA says, solar minimum is on the way. Sunspots are heading toward a low point expected in 2019-2020, NASA says. Solar minimum means certain types of activity such as sunspots and flares drop, but it could cause coronal holes and enhance the effects of space weather. Space weather. The sun is heading into a period known as solar minimum, during which activity at the surface will change form. In this time, certain types of activities such as sunspots and solar flares will drop, but it is also expected to bring the development of long-lived phenomenon, including coronal holes. According to NASA, solar minimum could also enhance the effects of space weather, potentially disrupting communications and navigation systems, and even causing space junk to hang around. Yep, there's the sun. The sun follows roughly an 11-year cycle. While sunspots were relatively high back in 2014, they're now heading toward a low point expected in 19 and 20, according to NASA. This is called solar minimum, said Dean Pesnell of NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland, and it's a regular part of the sunspot cycle. The change, however, doesn't mean that activity ceases altogether, the expert explained. Instead, different types of events tend to take hold. For instance, during solar minimum, we can see the development of long-lived coronal holes. We said that these holes throughout the solar cycle, but during the solar minimum, they can last for a long time, 6 months or more. And so what is a coronal hole? These are areas in the sun's atmosphere where the magnetic field opens up, sending streams of solar particles into space. When the resulting solar wind hits Earth's magnetic field, it can cause space weather events, including geomagnetic storms, auroras, and disruptions to communications and even satellites. According to NASA, it can even affect the space debris floating around Earth. The drag experienced as objects circle the Earth helps to keep low Earth orbit clean. The space agency explains this is the result of heating by ultraviolet radiation from the sun. The sun begins to lose magnetic control, forming the boundary that defines the outer corona, the very edge of the sun. The breakup of the rays is similar to the way water shoots out from a squirt gun. First, the weather is a smooth and unified stream, but it eventually breaks up into droplets, then smaller droplets, and eventually a fine, misty spray. Wow, so God's creation is really amazing and comes to us in many, many ways. We're down here on Earth worried about health care and immigration and Trump versus CNN and so forth, but God's universe goes on, and it goes in cycles, and it goes regardless of what we are doing. Let's look at the Trump administration sets a new visa rules for travel ban countries. So this is in line with the Supreme Court decision on, what was it, Monday, wasn't it? When they reinstated much of Trump's travel ban. And by the way, some people are saying, oh, it's not much of a victory, it's nothing for Trump to be celebrating about, but that's not the case. It was actually a huge political victory for Trump and also for America, because now the administration will be able to detect and find and keep out more terrorists from overseas, so that the United States does not become the way that Europe is today. The Trump administration on Wednesday set new criteria for visa applicants from 6 mainly Muslim countries and all refugees that require a close family or business tie to the United States. The move came after the Supreme Court partially restored President Trump's executive order that was widely criticized as a ban on Muslims. The new rules take effect on 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on Thursday. Visas that have already been approved will not be revoked, but instructions issued by the State Department say that new applicants from Syria, Sudan, Somalia, Libya, Iran, and Yemen must prove a relationship with a parent, spouse, child, adult, son or daughter, son-in-law, daughter-in-law, or a sibling already in the United States to be eligible. The same requirement, with some exceptions, holds for would-be refugees from all nations who are still awaiting approval for admission to the U.S. Grandparents, grandchildren, aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, cousins, brothers-in-law, or other extended family members are not considered to be close relationships according to the guidelines that were issued in a cable sent to all U.S. embassies and was obtained by the Associated Press. As far as business or professional links are concerned, the State Department said a legitimate relationship must be formal, documented, and formed in the ordinary course rather than for purpose of evading the ban. And journalists, students, workers, or lecturers who have valid invitations or employment contracts in the U.S. would be exempt from the ban. The exemption does not apply to those who seek a relationship with an American business or educational institution purely for the purpose of avoiding the ban, avoiding the rule, the cable said. A hotel reservation or rental contract, even if it was prepaid, would also not count, it said. Consular officials may grant other exemptions to applicants from 6 nations if they have previously established significant contacts with the United States, significant business or professional obligations in the U.S. if they are an infant, adopted child, or in need of urgent medical care, if they are traveling for business with a recognized international organization or the U.S. government, or if they are a legal resident of Canada who applies for a visa in Canada, according to the cable. So those are some of the exemptions. Okay. Critics say they are watching closely to see how the guidelines are used. Initial reports suggest that the government may try to unilaterally expand the scope of the ban, for example, by arbitrarily refusing to treat certain categories of familial relationships as bona fide. These reports are deeply concerning. We are watching for official words, said Omar Jadwat, director of the ACLU's Immigrants' Rights. On Monday, the Supreme Court partially lifted lower court injunctions against Trump's executive order that had temporarily banned visas for citizens of the 6 countries. Okay. Earlier this month, the Trump administration approved a new questionnaire for U.S. visa applicants that asks for social media handles and accounts used during the last 5 years and travel history, including the source of funding for trips over the last 15 years for more rigorous vetting. The State Department requested expedited consideration and emergency review from the Office of Management and Budget on May 5th for the new visa application protocol. And the OMB has approved the new measures. Under the new rules, would-be immigrants from 6 countries who won a coveted visa in the government's diversity lottery, a program that randomly awards 50,000 green cards annually to people from countries with low rates of immigration in the United States, will also have to prove they have a bona fide relationship within the U.S. or are eligible for another waiver or face being banned for at least 90 days. That hurdle may be a difficult one for those immigrants to overcome, as many visa lottery winners don't have relatives in the U.S. or jobs in advance of arriving in the country. All right, so Finally, Trump has been able to institute a large portion of his visa vetting or visa ban, and that's good news. That's one of the things that he promised to do, and hopefully that we hope that when the Supreme Court hears the whole case, whole arguments in October, that that this situation will be improved even further. This was a great victory for Trump and a great, pretty serious defeat for those who are trying to undermine President Trump's efforts to make America great again. All right, we'll take a break and come back in a minute or so with more news from a Cheongguk Group perspective.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
Car Arms, Magnum Research, and Auto Ordnance. The Car Firearms Group. With a diverse product line that blends American craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology. It's no secret why gun enthusiasts choose Car Firearms Group. From the Desert Eagle and Baby Desert Eagle made famous by Hollywood. The history of the 1911 and the Tommy gun. To the best in compact concealed carry. Car Firearms Group is not only the first name in personal defense, it's a name that has earned the respect of gun enthusiasts around the world. Concealment, innovative technology, value, accuracy, and history. Car Firearms Group. Made in the USA. Visit car.com today.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
Welcome back to the King's Report for, what is it now, Thursday, June 29th, 2017. I'm Tim Elder, sitting in for the second king of Cheongguk, Hyungjin Moon. Let's look at this article on Fox. Headline is an interesting one. Most Americans know that owning a gun is an essential part of our freedom. Most Americans know that owning a gun is an essential part of our freedom. This is by Stacy Washington. Let's see what she has to say. An overwhelming majority of Americans view gun ownership as essential to their freedom. This is what a recent Pew Research poll discovered in a deep dive into the complex relationship of that Americans have with guns. According to the poll, the nationally representative survey of 3,930 U.S. adults, including 1,269 gun owners, was conducted March 13 to 27 and April 4 to 8, 2017, using the Pew Research Center's America Trends panel. In other words, the survey is pretty comprehensive, and its findings reflect the understanding of many clear-thinking Americans on the Second Amendment. For those who do own and use firearms, it is integral to who they are. Guns are ubiquitous in our culture. Both the bad guys and the heroes utilize them in movies and books, which accurately reflects reality. The bad guys will always have guns, and good guys know that firearms are an effective tool for securing property and protecting loved ones. In other words, gun ownership is completely normal, and contrary to what gun grabbers and security liberals would have you believe, safe. There is a direct correlation between higher levels of gun ownership and less crime. Wow, look at that. There is a direct correlation between higher levels of gun ownership and less crime. Urban areas have fewer lawfully obtained guns and higher levels of criminal activity. Socioeconomics are a driver, but the impact of burdensome laws on who can own and carry firearms in urban areas play a distinct role in lowering safety levels for residents. Only a third of Americans express that they do not, nor would they ever consider owning a firearm. A healthy 66% of gun owners, a significant portion of whom own more than one, would never consider not owning one. These people exist in a culture where gun ownership is the norm. It would be interesting to see the minority of Americans who eschew guns to react to these findings here. The survey results show a clear relationship between the conscious choice to own a gun and the exercise of personal freedom. Other studies on crime and gun owners have found that gun owners commit fewer crimes as a population than the police. The civilizing factor of owning a firearm increases the level of responsibility that must be exercised. This positively impacts everyone in proximity to gun owners. Of note, only 19% of those dwelling in urban environments where crime is the highest own guns. In rural areas where crime is exceedingly low, 46% of those surveyed reported owning a gun. Of suburban respondents, 28% own guns. To place a finer point on the data, in just 1 out of 5 homes in an urban environment will an intruder face the possibility of a homeowner defending his home and loved ones with a gun. In rural area, an invader faces a nearly 50-50 chance, hence the minuscule incidence of criminal activity. Another point worth noting is that while most gun owners could never see themselves not owning a gun, they have no desire to force others to possess them. Conversely, many Americans who do not own firearms have an almost compulsive desire to disarm law-abiding gun owners, even as proof mounts against the efficacy of confiscation and disarmament. When guns are regulated away from those who seek them lawfully, only the criminals are armed. See Chicago. Americans' broad exposure to guns includes an overwhelming number who have fired a gun or have lived in a home with a gun owner. Approximately 7 out of 10 Americans have fired a weapon at least once. Again, guns are tools, and Americans have experienced their use as normal. The research done by Pew exposes the lesser-known facts surrounding firearm ownership and America's relationship with guns. One thing is patently clear. Guns aren't going anywhere because Americans who own guns associate them with liberty and self-reliance. And that's a good thing. Stacy Washington is host of the Stacy on the Right show, broadcast on Urban Family Talk Monday through Friday from 2 to 3 p.m. in St. Louis, Missouri. So nice to read a sensible article. It's really my experience too, that when you start carrying a gun, there is a much greater sense of responsibility, because you might have to use it, and and to decide when to use it and how to use it is an extremely important thing. And so I find myself going through various scenarios, and even when I'm reading articles about incidents involving guns, I find myself thinking, how would I have acted in that kind of a situation? And there are some people who use their gun in a foolish way, in a stupid way. Like there are articles like that. But even stupid people have the God-given right to defend themselves, and so they cannot be denied guns, but they need to be held accountable for their stupidity, and that's important. And they need to go to jail if they break the law, or if they use their weapon in a foolish manner. By doing that, they learn, but also people around them learn, and by publicizing these kinds of incidents, gun owners and people in general learn, and so we all become safer as a result of that. Here, teachers packing heat, more educators taking gun training classes, we see, because one trend that we've seen over the years is that these mass shootings tend to occur in schools a lot of the time. Because the law, and this is true even in Pennsylvania, we're not allowed to take our guns into a school. So that means that when a criminal takes his gun into a school, he can be certain that he is the only one in that building with a gun. So no one is going to stop him from killing as many people as he wants until he runs out of ammunition or decides to kill himself or something. But now, teachers across the country are moving to head moving to the head of the class when it comes to learning how to use a gun. With mass shootings seemingly becoming commonplace in classrooms across, I wouldn't say that, come on. Commonplace? Oh, come on now, don't do that. Teachers are learning how many mass shootings were there yesterday, huh? 0 as far as I know. It's not commonplace, come on. Teachers are learning how to fire grade A shots and starting to carry weapons in class. This writer's a little bit trying too hard. It's an attempt to better protect their students and prevent the next Sandy Hook Elementary School or Columbine High School shooting. Nearly a third of the country, a total of 18 states, allows adults to carry a loaded gun on school grounds with certain permissions. But ever since the Sandy Hook shootings in 2012, some states have pushed for safety training initiatives for teachers to learn how to properly fire a weapon and prevent any threats to the classroom. Hundreds of school teachers in Ohio, Colorado, and elsewhere have been trained by an organization called Faculty Administrator Safety Training and Emergency Response, FASTER. How many hours did they spend trying to come up with that acronym? The group, operated by Ohio-based Buckeye Firearms Association, conducts a program that was created along with concerned parents, law officers, and safety experts, according to a description of the group on its website. The program provides 26 hours of hands-on training over 3 days and exceeds the requirements of the Ohio Peace Officer Training Academy, according to FASTER officials. It entails practice scenarios in which the armed protector must find and subdue the threat as students flee a classroom. In addition to the combat training, those who attend the exercise were also given combat casualty training, where they learned how to treat injuries at the scene with bandages and a tourniquet. The purpose is not to replace police and EMT, but to allow teachers, administrators, and other personnel on site to stop school violence rapidly and render medical aid immediately. Read the description of the program. That's really important, because police are not there when these things begin to happen. And so when it starts to happen and there are no police there and no one's there with a gun, people run, they hide, and hope for the best. And many people get killed as a result of that. When a shooter begins, or mass shooting begins, is about to begin, it needs to be dealt with by the people who are already there. And so the people who are already there need to be armed in a way, armed with the tools that will allow them to deal with a mass shooter. That's the way to stop mass shootings. It's not taking away guns from law-abiding citizens as they've done in so many states. Here, look across the Delaware River from the Cheonggyeong, and on this side of the river, we're allowed to carry these tools. But if I were to cross that river, as I am now, I would become a felon, and if I were caught, I would spend 10 years or more in jail. And that has happened to some people who accidentally, go one exit too far on the interstate or something like that. And they get into deep trouble if they're stopped on the other side. Really, there is this national reciprocity law that is pending in both the House and the Senate, and it needs to pass so that we can carry our guns and not worry about being arrested and thrown in jail for 10 years in New York or New Jersey, but so that we can protect ourselves. Of course, obeying the laws of those states that we visit, but we need to be able to protect ourselves and our families and people around us wherever we go, not just in Pennsylvania, and also on school grounds. Here in Pennsylvania, we're not allowed to take guns onto the property of a K-12 school. And that, as it says here, and it said in the previous article, that needs to change. That needs to change because we need to be able to carry these guns in every circumstance. The one of the congressmen who was wounded in the recent incident in Northern Virginia was saying that from now on I'm going to take my gun wherever I go. But it's not just congressmen, not just the elites, but everyone needs to be able to protect themselves. So let's pass that national reciprocity law immediately. Of course, in Cheongguk, the Constitution states very clearly that that individuals have the right to carry firearms. All right, let's take a break, and we'll be back with more news from a Cheongguk perspective in a minute or so.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
Car Arms, Magnum Research, and Auto Ordnance. The Car Firearms Group. With a diverse product line that blends American craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology. It's no secret why gun enthusiasts choose Car Firearms Group. From the Desert Eagle and Baby Desert Eagle made famous by Hollywood. The history of the 1911 and the Tommy gun. To the best in compact concealed carry. Car Firearms Group is not only the first name in personal defense, it's a name that has earned the respect of gun enthusiasts around the world. Concealment, innovative technology, value, accuracy, and history. Car Firearms Group. Made in the USA. Visit car.com today.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
Welcome back to the King's Report for Thursday, June 29th of 2017. I'm Tim Elders, sitting in for the second king of Cheongguk, Hyungjin Moon. And during this last segment, I want to start out with this story by Michelle Malkin, who is a really good conservative writer, and I've read a lot of her stuff over the years, and I've always enjoyed it. She usually talks about politics, but here she's writing about something that's a little bit out of the ordinary for her, a disturbing situation that she came across there in Boston. On the day Boston Children's Hospital celebrated being named, by the way, this is on worldtribune.com, on the day Boston Children's Hospital celebrated being named the #1 pediatric hospital in the nation by U.S. News & World Report, I was interviewing Dana Gotsfeld in nearby Somerville, Massachusetts. Dana is the young wife of Marty G. Gotsfeld, an imprisoned technology engineer activist who used his skills to fight against medical child abuse committed at Boston Children's Hospital. This is so Boston, Dana observed Tuesday in response to the new ranking, which is already splashed in multiple gold medallions across the hospital's website. It's all about power, prestige, and pull at the top echelons of the Bay State's medical community, many New Englanders have informed me. BCH's teaching affiliate is Harvard Medical School. The ties between and among influential and wealthy alumni in the realms of healthcare, politics, and the courts are innumerable. It's a network that's pretty untouchable, Dana explained. And like the third rail, those who dare challenge these renowned institutions risk great danger to their freedom and their lives. You see, it's about protecting the organization, protecting the institution, not about doing good. Dana's husband, Marty, faces felony charges of computer hacking and conspiracy related to distributed denial of service attacks in April 2014 against Boston Children's and nearby Wayside Youth and Family Support Network residential treatment. Marty had organized a social media army to knock the computer networks of both institutions offline to protest the medical kidnapping of then 15-year-old Justina Pelletier. Hackers from the loose-knit collective Anonymous allegedly participated in the campaign. Justina's plight had become international news in Marty's backyard. One fateful winter day in February 2013, Justina traveled with her mom to BCH from her West Hartford, Connecticut home, seeking relief from a severe case of the flu. Ordinary sickness compounded Justina's rare medical conditions, including mitochondrial disease and postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. But those illnesses haven't stopped her from participating in school, competitive ice skating, and an active family life. Instead of receiving top-notch care and attention at BCH, Justina was snatched from her parents and recklessly re-diagnosed with a psychological condition, somatoform disorder. She was dragged from BCH's neurology department to its infamous psych ward, where she was reprimanded for being unable to move her bowels or walk unassisted in her weakened state. At Wayside, she was harassed by a staffer while taking a shower. The physical and mental torture lasted 16 months. The family is now suing the gold medallion-adorned scandal-plagued Boston Children's Hospital. They tried to break us all, Justina's dad Lou told me at his West Hartford home, where Justina fights to recover from post-traumatic stress and physical deterioration suffered while she was held hostage. But the arrogant, tunnel-visioned torturers failed. Thanks to an aggressive awareness-raising campaign by an eclectic coalition, including Justina's family, the Christian Defense Coalition's Reverend Pat Mahoney, conservative media personalities, and left-wing critics of the Massachusetts child safety bureaucracy, Justina was eventually freed and reunited with her parents. Marty G's DDoS attacks were an instrumental catalyst at a time when Justina's family faced a gag order for speaking out. I never imagined a renowned hospital would be capable of such brutality, and no amount of other good work could justify torturing Justina, Marty wrote in a recent online explanation of why he intervened. BCH calls what it did to her a parentectomy. Parentectomy. And there had been others over at least the past 20 years. I knew that BCH's big donation day was coming up and that most donors give online. I felt that to have sufficient influence to save Justina from a grievous bodily harm and possible death, as well as dissuade BCH from continuing its well-established pattern of such harmful parentectomies, I'd have to hit BCH where they appear to care the most, the pocketbook and reputation. See what they do? They call taking a child away from parents a parentectomy, as if the like a mastectomy or when you take out something that is bad for the body, that is killing the body. So they're treating parents as if they are evil, as if they are the harm, as if the parents are the disease. Parentectomy. Think of the meaning of that word, the implications. On Tuesday, a federal judge in Boston finally set a court date for Marty Gottsfeld's case after more than a year behind bars without bail, including about 80 days in solitary confinement and a stint in the same detention center as Mexico's notorious drug cartel kingpin El Chapo. Marty now faces trial in January 2018. He was barred from attending his beloved adoptive father's funeral in April. It was the right thing to do, Dana told me through tears as she cradled a Homeland Security storage bag with Marty's wedding ring. She recently lost her job as a result of her advocacy for Marty, but the couple, who have never met Justina or her family, will keep fighting medical kidnappings. Relentless as ever, Marty stressed in a brief phone conversation with me the need for state and federal Justina's laws to protect wards of the state from being used as research guinea pigs by prestigious medical institutions. Both the supporters of Justina and Marty remain aghast at the brutal treatment of their loved ones, while the real menaces breathe free. Marty's message from prison in Massachusetts: human rights abuses aren't just happening in North Korea, they're here. Justina's message from her wheelchair in Connecticut: she hopes her torturers get what they deserve. Is anyone in Washington listening? Michelle Malkin is a columnist for WorldTribune.com and the author of the new book, Who Built That Awe-Inspiring Story? Who Built That? Awe-Inspiring Stories of American Tinkerpreneurs. Wow. So here, this young man acted because he felt that he had to do something to stop this young woman from suffering grievous bodily harm or even death. I'm reminded that under Pennsylvania law and also under laws of many other states, that kind of situation would actually allow even the use of a gun. to protect someone from grievous bodily harm or possible death. So he was acting, you could say, in defense of this person. So if you say that he was using a computer, so apparently he did do this, a DDoS, the Distributed Denial of Service, but it was a situation where he didn't have a gun or couldn't use a gun, and the gun would not have been effective, so he used the computer and his knowledge of computer coding in place of that. So I would say that this qualifies as a self-defense, because self-defense doesn't mean just defending yourself. It also applies when you are defending someone else. And so this would qualify for that. So he had a reasonable belief that unless he acted, this young woman was going to suffer grievous bodily harm or possible death. And so he acted in a way which normally would be illegal, doing a DDoS. Just like normally if you shoot someone, that's normally would be illegal. But it is, but the law gives an exception and a justification if it is for self-defense. And so this is the same situation here, I would say. So if I were on this jury, I would, based on what the information that is given in this article at least, I would vote to declare this person not guilty for what he did. It's an act of self-defense. What we also see, though, is that this idea of parentectomy, I can't get by that word, because here we live in a society where parents, not just in hospitals but also in schools. I remember going to these what is it, every term or so, or not every month I think, but every term or so, they would have a day when you could go and you go to a room and all the teachers were sitting behind the desks, and you'd go to, what would they give you, 15 minutes or something like that with each teacher, and you go and talk with each teacher, and some of the teachers were really quite arrogant, as if like, why'd you come, you got anything to say to me? You don't? Oh, okay, well, bye. Really treating parents as the problem. And in fact, that has been the basic philosophy of a modern education theory, that the role of schools is to educate children not to respect their parents, to educate children not to follow the culture, the traditions that are being taught by their parents. So that was the case in schools, and here also in hospitals. The role of the parent is not recognized. In fact, it's not only not recognized, it is seen as being detrimental to the welfare of the child, or to the welfare of the state, and to the welfare of the hospital and to its organization. But really, as we move towards Cheongguk, we need to return sovereignty to the family. Return sovereignty to the family. Where the mother and father are king and queen, and have a kingdom where they are sovereign. And that sovereignty is respected by the government and by the Constitution. And the Cheongguk Constitution does that. That is why it is an upside-down constitution. Right now, efforts are being made to destroy the family, not just by communist countries, not just by fascist regimes, but also even by institutions like this hospital in the United States. There was a comparison to North Korea, and I think that does not really do justice. North Korea is going to be much, much worse, and I don't think we should minimize the atrocities that are going on in North Korea by comparing it to something that happens in one hospital. But I get the overall message that, yeah, human rights are violated for the protection of the organization. In a sense, the organization itself becomes like a organism that is trying to protect itself, trying to exercise self-defense on its own behalf. But organizations do not have the right to self-defense. It is only people that have right to self-defense. And when the rights of the people come into conflict with the rights of the organization, the rights of the people have to take priority. We cannot sacrifice people for the sake of the organization. We must sacrifice the organization for the sake of the people. And that is what Father did. Father was willing to sacrifice the entire Unification Church, and I talked about this, I think, recently. He was prepared to sacrifice the entire Unification Church for the sake of God's will. But unfortunately, the leaders in the church stopped him from doing that, put the organization above the people, and that is what is happening today again in the Family Federation. They are going to fail. They are failing, but we ourselves must remember never to become like that. Always put the people above the organization. All right, that brings us to the end of our broadcast for this day, Thursday, June 29th, 2017. Thank you very much for joining us, and I will see you again tomorrow morning, Friday morning, at 5 a.m. God bless, Godspeed, and may His kingdom come.